Chapter 1017 Karma of the Great Calamity. Chapter 1017 Karma of the Great Calamity. Countless inheritances of the system fell into Hanju's eyes, causing his heart to stir. Hanju was afraid. He had also faced the problems these inheritors had faced. Fortunately, he kept his bottom line. But then again, those inheritors only faced external bewitchment. He was different. The system would try to bewitch him every time it gave him a choice. Damn it! The creation will replied. No, you represent the unknown. The unknown represents hope. While waiting for the successful person to appear, I suffered the backlash of all existences and no longer exist. What you face is the remnant will I left in the system. I won't restrain you. I won't interfere no matter what you do in the future. I look forward to what kind of existence you will become. Hanju didn't believe all of this. He asked, why did you choose me? That's your luck. Every chosen successor has such doubts. I can't answer them. It can only be your providence. Hanju wasn't too satisfied with the answer. He asked, why is my Dao field stronger than my cultivation level? Why aren't there any previous inheritors? As I constantly changed inheritors, the system became stronger. When you die, this opportunity will find the next successor, and the help he receives will also be greater than yours. The creation will pause for a moment and continued. The reason why I tested you when you were chosen was also that you wasted nearly a fifth of a mortal's lifespan for good providence. Such a situation is unprecedented. Hanju said, thank you for your praise. It's not a compliment. Hanju was stunned, not understanding what the creation will meant. He asked, can you control the system? No, I'm only a remnant will. I can't have a substantial effect on any existence. Then, do you have anything to say to me? Hanju's Dao heart didn't change after he understood the system's past. Anyway, it was right to maintain his previous attitude. The creation will was silent. The edge of the huge sun in the distance began to fluctuate, as if the heat was scorching the sky. After a long while, the creation will's voice slowly floated over. Just like the heavenly Dao, although the heavenly Dao gives birth to a will, the heavenly Dao itself also exists. Unconsciously, there is always a power that restricts the development of all of this. As for what it is, I'm not sure either. Even I can't imagine what exists outside of all of this. What's the meaning of my birth? Perhaps you can see through the meaning of existence when you reach the Creator Lord realm. With that, the illusion shattered. Remember, the strongest is not eternal. Even if you're the strongest, you will be surpassed sooner or later if you stop cultivating. There is no lack of strongest people from various eras among the previous inheritors. Most of them got lazy and were surpassed by those who came later. Always remember how you got to this point. The creation will's voice became more and more ethereal. Hanju's consciousness returned to reality. It was still very noisy on Buzhou Mountain. The Flying Heaven sect and the Han family had yet to come to a conclusion. Hanju felt bored. It turned out that he was not the primordial Fian Celestial's reincarnation. He was only one of the countless inheritors chosen. He had been thinking too much. Before this, he was still wondering if he was the primordial Fian Celestial's reincarnation. Before he died, he had created a golden finger for himself, or that the system was given by the future him. He had seen an online novel on Earth in the past. It was set like this. He had to be wary of the so-called creation will. Hanju felt that this fellow's self-introduction was a little dangerous. Why would he leave behind a remnant will if he had no desires? Hanju didn't ask the system. He couldn't tell if the creation will could control the system. No matter what, he had to work hard to become stronger. The Creator Lord realm was not enough. In order to be stable, he had to at least surpass the Creator Lord realm before he could challenge the goal mentioned by the creation will. Hanju couldn't act according to others' thoughts. He had to always be ahead of others and above them. Hanling couldn't help but laugh. Father, these so-called mighty figures in the immortal world are like mortals. They're boring. The head of the Han family and the sect master of the Flying Heaven sect both suffered losses. They used treasures to comfort the disciples who were involved in this karma. This matter seemed to have ended, but there was trouble ahead. Hanju deduced that the karma between the two of them was already deep. There would definitely be a shocking battle between the two forces. This also involved Han Yi and Han Yao. Especially Han Yi. The Flying Heaven sect would be Han Ye's stepping stone to attain the Tao. Han Ju began to look forward to that day. But this karma would have already ended when he came out of seclusion the next time. The father and daughter stood up and left for the chaos. Several decades later, they returned to the third Tao field. Han Ju directly moved Han Yao into the third Tao field and created a clone to teach him. His main body began to enter seclusion. Han Yao was handsome and suave. Since he looked like Han Ju, he attracted Xing Hongxian and the other women's attention. At first Han Yao panicked. After Han Ju's explanation, the panic turned into surprise. He knelt down to the ancestor and began to enjoy the first opportunity of his life. Han Ling was very interested in Han Yao. She wanted to see how powerful this descendant her father had made an exception to take in was. In the end, he was not outstanding. The conquest heavenly star required battles to grow. Only then could his potential and strength transform. The current Han Yao and Han Yi were the same. They had yet to show their potential. After losing interest, Han Ling no longer paid attention to Han Yao. Han Yao usually meditated and cultivated. Every time he broke through, Han Ju's clone would teach him a mystical power and preach the Tao. Even Xing Hongxian could tell that Han Ju thought highly of Han Yao. Other than his own son, no one else had such treatment. No, even his own son was inferior. Han Ju didn't specially create clones to treat Han Huang and his children. 10,000 years later, Han Yao was sent back to the immortal world by Han Ju's clone. This time, a peerless prodigy had descended. More than 300,000 years later, Han Ju was still cultivating in seclusion when a notification appeared in front of him. The evil heavenly emperor sent you a dream. Do you accept? It was very difficult for all living beings to visit him in his dreams after he became a Tao creator. However, he gave special privileges to the people he cared about to prevent them from encountering danger. Han Ju hesitated for a moment, but still agreed to the evil heavenly emperor's request. The dream was a small forest outside the Jade Pure Sacred sect. The evil heavenly emperor immediately said, "I have something to ask of you." Han Ju retracted his divine light and asked with a smile, "What is it?" He couldn't be bothered to calculate. After not seeing him for more than 20 million years, he really missed the evil heavenly emperor. The evil heavenly emperor chuckled, "I won't stand on ceremony with you. I want Han Yao and Han Yi. I really didn't expect that other than your own children, the Han family would actually have such stunning descendants. Han Yao has already been chosen by the heavenly Tao as the #1 prodigy of the current generation. That Han Yi is even more impressive. He killed his way from the mortal world to the immortal world, and then to the chaos. He's like a god of slaughter. Leave him to me. It just so happens that he has the temperament to lead the righteous path. You're busy cultivating and shouldn't have time to care about them, right? Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 10:18 Difference in Status. Chapter 10:18 Difference in Status. I indeed don't have the time to care about them, but I can't control their wishes. If you can rope them in, I naturally have no objections. Han Ju smiled. He could allow some things, but he couldn't arrange them directly. His attitude might affect his descendants. If he advocated, what would the Han family think? Wouldn't they be controlled by the evil heavenly emperor in the future? Although Han Ju believed in the evil heavenly emperor, he didn't want to help him like this. Once the evil heavenly emperor got used to it, he would easily feel that it was natural. He might even become arrogant and his mentality would change. In addition, behind the evil heavenly emperor stood the formless transcendent deity. Although he was suppressed by the 9th chaos, he could return in 100 million years. The evil heavenly emperor smiled and said, "That's good. It's fine as long as you agree. After all, they're the precious geniuses of your Han family. I can't poach them all. I have to ask for your approval. Don't worry, I'm only nurturing them for a period of time. They can leave at any time when they grow up, just like Tuar, Huanger, and Jiang Juesher." Han Ju wasn't surprised that Han Huang and Jiang Juesher had already left the heavenly court. He didn't ask further. The two of them began to reminisce and sighed. As time passed, there were fewer and fewer old friends. There were naturally even fewer old friends who were close. The two of them chatted for a long time. Han Ju continued cultivating after the dream ended. His seclusion period had already increased to a 5 million-year period. The next time he opened his eyes, Han Yao and Han Yi would definitely have become famous. Heavenly Tao, outside the 33rd heaven. In the Universal Hall, a group of ancient sages sat side by side. Two figures stood in the hall. They were Han Yao and Han Yi. Han Yao wore silver armor and was handsome like an immortal who had walked out of a painting. Han Yi was dressed in black. His long hair was tied behind his head with a grass rope, and 2 strands of long hair were left on his forehead. He was also handsome, but his eyes were filled with killing intent, and he had an unruly smile. These two were the strongest geniuses of the heavenly Tao in the past 1,000,000 years. They were both descendants of the divine might heavenly sage. The sages sized up the two of them, and were satisfied. Long Hao smiled and said, "They have the bearing of Junior Tuo and Junior Huang back then." The other sages nodded. Han Yao glanced at Han Yi with a meaningful gaze. Han Yi said, "Everyone, why did you call me here? I don't want to stay in the same hall as this fellow. You can forget about subduing me. Although I, Han Yi, am born as a mortal, my pride surpasses that of a sage." Li Taiga smiled teasingly. "Kid, you're very arrogant. It's indeed impressive that you killed the entire sect, but you also offended many sages because of this. If not for us protecting you, do you really think you could survive?" Han Yi smiled. "If not, how can we reconcile? The heavenly Tao has so many geniuses. Isn't there one in front of me? In the end, you're still afraid of my power, and afraid that I'll perish with the heavenly Tao. Let's not talk nonsense. I, Han Yi, am preparing to leave the heavenly Tao. I'm here to bid farewell to you. I was born in the heavenly Tao. It is my home. I will naturally return if the heavenly Tao is in trouble in the future." With that, Han Yi turned around and left. Li Taigu was so angry that he wanted to attack, but he was stopped by Heavenly Venerate Wufa. Heavenly Venerate Wufa smiled and said, "This kid is really vicious. It's good that he left. Staying in the heavenly Tao will only cause trouble. He will understand our intentions after he trains in the chaos and learns his lesson." Heavenly Venerate Xiandu nodded. Seeing this, the other sages did not say anything. Their gazes landed on Han Yao next. Han Yao was indifferent to Han Ye's departure. He didn't like him to begin with. The two of them were known as the two peerless geniuses of the Han family. But Han Yao had always looked down on Han Yi and felt that he was too murderous. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu looked at him and said, "Han Yao, the chaotic heavenly court's evil heavenly emperor wants to invite you to the heavenly court to cultivate. Are you willing to go?" Han Yao frowned. Feng Liang smiled. "Your Han family's ancestors have all served in the heavenly court. Now the divine punisher is above the chaotic great Tao divine spirit. Furthermore, you can fight well. The heavenly court is very suitable for you. We all think that you can go and release your nature. In addition, recently, the Eternal Peaks Han Huang is also in the heavenly court. You've also wandered the chaos before. You should have heard of Han Huang's reputation, right?" Han Yao's eyes lit up. "Han Huang is the ancestor of my Han family. I've naturally heard of him. I'm willing to go." The sages laughed. They all looked forward to Han Yao, hoping that he could create a legend like Han Huang in the next chaotic assembly. Even if he could not, becoming one of the chaotic 10 absolutes was enough to excite the heavenly Tao and make the chaotic domains envious. Heavenly Venerate Xiandu looked at Han Yu and said, "Han Yu, bring your juniors personally. I need you to lead the way." Han Yu agreed. Han Yao's thoughts drifted to the heavenly court. He wanted to see Han Huang, the prodigy who stood above the peak of the chaos, the greatest glory of the Han family. Han Yunjin had erected Han Tuo's and Han Huang's monuments in the ancestral hall when he established the Han family. He had recorded the legends of his 2 brothers to let the descendants of the main family read them since they were young. Han Yao had been taught by Han Ju for 10,000 years when he was young. He was often mentioned by the disciples of the Tao field in the 3rd Tao field. He knew more about Han Huang than all living beings. Born as freedom, unparalleled in the world, that was the goal he should pursue. Just like that, Han Yu left with Han Yao. Sect Master Tianju said faintly, "Everyone, there seems to be a fate between Han Yao and Han Yi." Have you deduced it? Heavenly Venerate Xian Du frowned. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said that Han Ye's divine bow is extremely impressive. It can even pierce through the heavenly Tao. Will Han Yao really be Han Ye's match if the two of them become old enemies in the future? Heavenly Venerate Wufa said. From the looks of it, Han Yi is stronger. This kid becomes stronger when he kills enemies. He's a killing star that has descended on the world. Han Yao is a general star. Killing star versus general star. They are indeed incompatible. However, Han Yao is a descendant personally brought up by the divine might heavenly sage. He cannot die young. The sages nodded. These words determined their attitude. If the two were irreconcilable and only one could exist, they would protect Han Yao. Although Han Yi was also a descendant of the divine might heavenly sage, the Han family had many children. There was a difference in status among them. In the chaotic void, an ancient pagoda slowly advanced. 4 figures sat on the pagoda's surface. They were Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, Jiang Yi and Lao Dan. Zhao Xianyuan smiled and asked, "Where are we going next?" Times were different from the past. Dao Sovereign was a great Dao Supreme. The other 3 were not far from it. The 4 of them joined forces and ran rampant in the chaos, rarely encountering danger. Dao Sovereign did not answer. Lao Dan smiled and said, "It depends on fate. Traveling the chaos is also a form of cultivation." At this moment, Jiang Yi suddenly opened his eyes and frowned. What a strong killing intent. The world ahead is being slaughtered. Zhao Xianyuan narrowed his eyes and looked over. His gaze passed through the chaotic void and reached the dilapidated world that was far beyond the reach of mortals. Corpses were everywhere, and a ferocious aura surged. In the dilapidated world was a sea of blood. Above the sea of blood stood a figure. It was Han Yi. He was absorbing the blood aura. His long hair fluttered wantonly, like a ferocious god. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1019 Respect for one person only. Chapter 1019 Respect for one person only. That kid is a little evil. He's actually absorbing killing intent. Zhao Xianyuan looked at Han Yi and clicked his tongue in wonder. Jiang Yi pinched his fingers to deduce and said, "This world has been invaded by demons and billions of living beings have been possessed. The negative karma is monstrous. Being slaughtered by this child is considered enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens." Zhao Xianyuan smiled. He's from the heavenly Tao and has freedom realm cultivation, but he has a killing intent comparable to a great Tao sage. Impressive. Let's go and take a look. Sure. The ancient pagoda began to rush in Han Ye's direction. They arrived in the dilapidated world not long after. In the sea of blood, Han Yi, who was meditating in the air, suddenly opened his eyes. Blood light flashed in his eyes, causing the surrounding blood aura to instantly stop. Han Yi looked at the ancient pagoda and frowned slightly. Zhao Xuanyuan's laughter sounded. "Kid, why can you absorb killing intent?" Jiang Yi began to deduce Han Ye's background. Then his expression changed. He immediately sent a voice transmission to Zhao Xianyuan, who also became stunned. Dao Sovereign also opened his eyes and looked at Han Yi. Han Yi snorted upon facing the 4 unfamiliar and mysterious cultivators. "What does it have to do with you? Don't disturb me." Zhao Xianyuan was amused and smiled. Very arrogant. Han Yi took out the world-piercing divine origin bow and held it in his right hand. A terrifying murderous aura enveloped the world. Dao Sovereign and the other 3 frowned when they saw the bow. What a domineering bow. They actually felt a trace of fear. Very few Dharma treasures could make them uneasy at first glance. Jiang Yi sent a voice transmission to Zhao Xianyuan. "Do you think it's a Dharma treasure given to him by the sect master? Such a treasure can't exist in the heavenly Tao. It's definitely a chaotic supreme treasure." Zhao Xianyuan felt that it made sense, and looked at Han Yi with a gentle gaze. Hanju had countless descendants. Not every descendant could make them give him face, but to be able to obtain Hanju's supreme treasure was different. Dao Sovereign said, "Join us." His voice was extremely loud, like a bell ringing in Han Ye's ears. Han Yi raised his right arm straight and pulled the bowstring with his left hand. There were no arrows, but a terrifying pressure erupted, causing the dilapidated world to tremble violently. Dao Sovereign, and the other three were moved. What a terrifying bow. I'll give you another chance. Scram. Han Yi shouted expressionlessly. Zhao Xinyuan teased. You want to kill the four of us with a bow? Do you know who we are? Killing intent burst out from Han Ye's eyes, scaring Lao Dan so much that he hurriedly shouted. Stop, we're all on the same side. Don't act recklessly. Han Yi was stunned. On the same side. Lao Dan glared at Zhao Xinyuan, and then back at Han Yi. The three of them are personal disciples of the hidden sect's divine might heavenly sage. Han Yi frowned. He knew about the hidden sect, but he had never thought of himself as a member of the Han family. He had relied on himself all along. His parents had long died of old age and entered the cycle of reincarnation. The Han family came to find him after he became stronger. This made him look down on them. As for the divine might heavenly sage, this figure was too far away. He rarely thought about it. So what if it's the hidden sect? I gave you a chance. You insisted on pestering me. Han Yi suddenly released his left hand, and the bowstring retracted. A red arrow aura suddenly shot out and tore through the chaotic space. It was like a blood-colored torrent that attacked Dao's sovereign and the other three. Extremely fast. Dao's sovereign instantly appeared in front of the ancient pagoda. He raised his hand to block the arrow aura of the world-piercing divine origin bow and crushed it with one hand. However, after the arrow aura dissipated, it turned into countless blood threads that entered his body and crazily destroyed his dermic powers and Dao fruit. Dao's sovereign frowned and dispersed it with his supreme power. Zhao Xinyuan cursed. Brat, you're so arrogant. In that case, I'll teach you a lesson first. With that, he suddenly appeared behind Han Yi. The difference in cultivation between the two was too great. Zhao Xinyuan pressed down on his shoulder before Han Yi could react. Han Ye's expression changed drastically. He subconsciously wanted to turn around, but his soul was suddenly severely injured. He fell into a daze and his body trembled. Zhao Xinyuan raised his hand and pulled Han Ye's soul out of his body. He took out a green jade mirror and sealed his soul in it. Han Yi panicked slightly. He glared at Zhao Xinyuan outside the mirror and cursed. Dog, what are you doing? Zhao Xinyuan smiled and said, Your mouth is really smelly. Han Yi cursed. Feel free if you want to kill or torture me. You'll still be a dog in my eyes. Zhao Xuanyuan's expression turned cold. Just as he was about to speak, Dao's sovereign appeared beside him and said, We were indeed the ones who disturbed him. If it were you, would you believe him if he revealed his identity? Zhao Xuanyuan's expression softened. Jiang Yi and Lao Dan also rushed over to persuade him. Zhao Xinyuan could only give up. Dao's sovereign looked at Han Yi in the mirror and said, You slaughtered the world wantonly. Even if it's a world filled with sins, it will attract trouble sooner or later. You're not qualified to act recklessly in the chaos with your strength. Han Yi was silent. Lao Dan smiled and said, Let me introduce you to them. This is one of the 10 absolute prodigies of the previous chaotic assembly. Now that he's a great Dao divine spirit, with him as your backing, won't it help you? Han Yi said angrily, I, Han Yi, will only bow to 3 people in this life. My parents are already dead. I will only respect one person in this life. Don't try to break my pride. Dao's sovereign was amused. Zhao Xinyuan and the other 2 could also tell that Han Ju was that person. In that case, they couldn't bully Han Yi. Otherwise, if Han Ju knew, they had to believe that he cared. Time passed quickly. Han Ju opened his eyes, indicating that 5 million years had passed. His cultivation was closely related to the development of the ultimate origin world after becoming a Dao creator. The stronger the ultimate origin world was, the stronger his dermic powers became. The ultimate origin world developed well in the past 5 million years. More and more stars were born, turning into a galaxy, and then into a huge world. The number of years of his origin lifespan was equivalent to the number of worlds he could nurture. The world here was in existence comparable to the heavenly Dao. It was enough to show how vast the ultimate origin world was. Those chaotic fiend celestials each guarded an area. Under the guidance of Han Ju's will, they began to serve as creation gods, establishing rules and order, and creating all sorts of miracles. The connate life forms of the ultimate origin world also began to ascend the stage one after another. The number was immeasurable, but they were still very rare in the vast ultimate origin world. Khanate lifeforms rarely interacted, mainly because they could not be seen. Hanju began the simulation trial and challenged the formless transcendent deity. 10 formless transcendent deities were no longer enough for him to kill. He directly challenged 100 formless transcendent deities. Victory! Hanju suddenly rejoiced. Fortunately, he had never exposed the ultimate origin world's existence. His great Tao world would be suppressed, just like the chaotic consciousness and the formless transcendent deities' great Tao worlds. It would be difficult for him to improve then. Hanju began to check his emails, wanting to see if there had been any changes in the past 5 million years. Soon he frowned. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1020 The Pride of a Born Emperor. Chapter 1020 The Pride of a Born Emperor. Your grand disciple Han Yao received guidance from your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor, and learned a mystical power. Your son Han Huang has entered the transcendent Great Tao world. Your good friend, the ultimate god of punishment, has entered the transcendent Great Tao world. Your good friend Azure Heaven Mystic has comprehended a Great Tao mystical power. His providence has increased greatly. Your son Han Tua was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your disciple Jiang Juesher created a mystical power. Millions of clones fell into the cycle of reincarnation. Your good friend Pangu has entered the transcendent Great Tao world. Transcendent Great Tao world? Hanju frowned. Wasn't the formless transcendent deity suppressed? Why was the Great Tao world exposed? There had to be a scheme. The number 1 deity had been suppressed by the Great Tao divine spirits ever since the chaotic assembly ended, and the consciousnessless Great Tao world had begun to be invaded by the various chaotic forces. The consciousnessless Great Tao world had already been tainted by the providence of the chaos, and was on the verge of fusing after more than 20 million years of development. Could it be that the 9th chaos wanted to fuse with their Great Tao world, while the 2 Tao creators were suppressed? If his guess was correct, then the 9th chaos was too ruthless. This move might cause the 2 Tao creators' cultivation to fall a major realm. Hanju couldn't expose the ultimate origin world to avoid being targeted by the 9th chaos. He was also very interested in the transcendent Great Tao world. Therefore, he created a clone and went to investigate it. As for his main body, it was better to stay in the Tao field. Father, what are you thinking? Han Ling's voice floated over, her tone a little excited. Hanju glanced at her and knew what she was thinking. Come. The father and daughter entered the simulation trial and opened their eyes the next second. Han Ling sighed. It still did not work. She looked up again and said, Father, stand still and let me fight. Try my mystical power. Hanju had no choice but to agree. An hour later, the simulation ended. Han Ling sighed. Father, you're really powerful. Even though my 10 million Emperor soldiers can gather into a formation, they can't break through your rope's restriction. Hanju smiled. Nonsense. I'm your father. Han Ling curled her lips and said, Father, do you think I can obtain the eternal peak if I participate in the chaotic assembly? Oh, you want to? I deduced that Han Yi and Han Yao are also determined to participate, so I'm hesitating if I should accompany them. Hanju rolled his eyes. Was this how a woman should be? He had discovered that Han Ling was unhappy with Han Yao and Han Yi. He did not expect this girl to actually want to participate in the chaotic assembly to stop them. Han Ling covered her mouth and laughed. Father, I'm teasing you. I know that you cherish those 2 brats. Why would I suppress them? Hanju smiled. You're also their ancestor. Don't treat them as peers. They can also help you if they can grow up, and you have great ambitions in the future. The primordial Emperor Star was born as an emperor. Hanju wouldn't be deceived by Han Ling's appearance. This girl looked obedient, but arrogance always existed in her heart. It was actually very easy to guess Han Ling's thoughts. Why did she always challenge Hanju? It was because she used him as a standard. She would be able to rule the chaos as long as she defeated him. Han Ling couldn't help but think when she heard that. Hanju continued to read the emails. How many emails had he accumulated in 5 million years? Every email was equivalent to a fragment of one's life. It could be an opportunity or a calamity. Han Ling was still thinking after he finished reading the emails. He stood up and went to visit his Dao companions. Several decades later, in the second Dao field, Han Ju sat opposite dozens of chaotic fiend celestials and was discussing the Dao. After so many years, all the chaotic fiend celestials had already become great Dao sages. More than half had reached the great Dao supreme realm. Their potential coupled with the spirit qi of the second Dao field was so terrifying. Morong Qi said, "Grandmaster, recently, a world has been created in the depths of my soul. This world is closely related to my cultivation. Why is that?" He had seen the power of the world at the chaotic assembly. It was indeed powerful, but at that time, he thought it was a mystical power. Only when he cultivated a world did he realize that this was a realm. Han Ju said, "You have to create a world if you want to go beyond the great Dao supreme realm." Previously, the place where the 10 absolutes of the chaos fought was the consciousnessless great Dao world. It was a world made by a transcendent existence. Great Lu's heaven was moved. In that case, could it be that the chaos is also? Han Ju smiled and nodded. He didn't have to worry about being spied on by the 9th chaos in the second Dao field. Regarding the great Dao world's secrets, Han Ju also planned to use this opportunity to tell his personal disciples in front of him. They were all trusted aides. The chaotic fiend celestial's potential was too strong. If not for him leading the way, he could only reach this step in his seclusion. Han Ju explained his understanding of the great Dao world, causing the dozens of chaotic fiend celestials to fall into deep thought. After a long while, Dao Comprehension Sword asked curiously, "Master, what about your great Dao world?" Han Ju smiled and didn't say anything. The black hell chicken shouted, "Don't ask nonsense. If you ask, the answer is no. It's the same for the others. How vast is the consciousnessless great Dao world? It's even suppressed under the chaos. This means that the Lord of Chaos is petty. Once he discovers." The fiend celestials were moved, and Dao Comprehension Sword's face turned pale. Han Ju said, "You have to be careful when you travel the chaos in the future. With your cultivation levels, you seem to be above all living beings, but you should be able to sense that this chaos is still very unfamiliar. The higher you stand, the more you should understand. Many rules and existences are unimaginable. And behind this unimaginable existence is a transcendent existence that far exceeds us." The fiend celestials nodded. Heavenly constellation fiend celestial said, "We won't go out. We'll stay in each other's great Dao world, and not cause trouble for Master if we're bored in the future." The other fiend celestials agreed, making Han Ju very satisfied. They needed an extremely long time to cultivate a great Dao world. Several years later, Han Ju returned to the third Dao field and prepared to continue cultivating. He suddenly thought of Hong Jun in the universe of stars. He focused his gaze and saw that Hong Jun was no longer in the universe of stars. However, Liu Bei was still there. He began to deduce Hong Jun and discovered that he had left after attaining freedom. Now he was preaching the Dao in a corner of the chaos and spreading his teachings. It seemed like he was preparing for the Dao ancestor's return. Han Ju clicked his tongue in wonder. What did the Dao ancestor want? Why hadn't he appeared now that the heavenly Dao and the chaos were peaceful? It seemed that the Dao ancestor had also established his own great Dao world, and was very powerful. Was he afraid of being discovered by the 9th chaos? The 9-headed divine spirit sent you a dream. Do you accept? A notification suddenly appeared in front of him, making Han Ju frown. Wasn't the 9-headed divine spirit already demoted to the mortal world by the 9th chaos? How could he send a dream? Could it be that after more than 20 million years, this fellow had already grown up? Han Ju hesitated for a moment before choosing to accept the dream. The dream was a blank domain. Han Ju saw the 9-headed divine spirit covered in the divine light of the supreme rules. When enemies met, they fell silent. A moment later, the 9-headed divine spirit said, "It's time for the primordial fiend celestial to appear. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com." Chapter 1021 Immeasurable Destruction. Venerable Shirtian, Chapter 1021 Immeasurable Destruction. Venerable Shirtian, the ultimate god of punishment's appearance made Jiang Juesher and Dao Sovereign stop. They looked at him. Continue fighting. I will stabilize this space so you can fight to your heart's content. The ultimate god of punishment said expressionlessly, as a storm brewed in his heart. These two were only great Dao sages, but they had such strength. In the future, when they attain the great Dao Supreme, they would have the right to reach the top of the chaos. Dao Sovereign smiled and said, Then come. Junior Jiang, you surprised me. As expected of Master, his disciples are becoming more and more powerful. These words offended Yang Tiandong Su Qi, Long Hao Feng Liang, Sen Chang'an, and the other disciples. Jiang Juesher smiled and nodded before attacking again. He continued to walk forward. His right hand kept casting spells. The golden runes around him flowed with light, and kept attacking Dao Sovereign. No matter where he attacked, the black and white halberd would block in time. It moved extremely quickly, and left behind afterimages. At first glance, it seemed to form a huge circle to protect Dao Sovereign. Dao Sovereign did wait for death. He smiled to himself and said, In that case, I'll be ruthless and let you know that my 10 million years of danger was not nonsense. Master, watch carefully. Who is your most outstanding disciple? Dao Sovereign raised his right arm. His arm was straight, and his palm was clenched into a fist. The endless chaotic river of destiny quickly surged over and drowned him. At this moment, Jiang Juesher had already reached 1,000,000 feet tall. The light on his body was already very dazzling, like a god who had just awakened the chaos. He was high and mighty. At this moment, Jiang Juesher's aura had already reached its peak. Countless living beings could feel his invincible aura, even separated by the sky. How powerful! Is this the peerless prodigy of the hidden sect? They want to fight for the eternal peak. It's indeed impressive to force the leader of the divine spirits to personally protect them. I suddenly feel that it makes sense that I've stopped before the 1,000 lords. Jiang Juesher has the aura of an unparalleled expert. Dao Sovereign is not bad either. I would have no complaints if this battle was to compete for the eternal peak. Han Ling looked at her father and asked, Father, who will win? Han Ju said, Jiang Juesher is still lacking. Damn, why was Dao Sovereign so ferocious? Su Hanju was surprised. He could feel that Dao Sovereign was accumulating power. This power was already enough to overturn ordinary great Dao Supremes. One had to know that Jiang Juesher would be a Dao creator in the future. How could Dao Sovereign win? Han Ju suddenly realized that he had never deduced Dao Sovereign's future. The future fate had been changing. Could it be that ever since Dao Sovereign entered the consciousnessless great Dao world, his fate had also changed? Very likely. At this moment, the accumulated chaotic river of destiny suddenly exploded. A terrifying figure broke free from the waves and jumped out. He punched Jiang Juesher's body and pierced through his chest. Blood splattered through the air. Countless living beings looked carefully. This terrifying figure was completely black, and its true appearance could not be seen. They could only see how sinister and terrifying it was. Zhao Xinyuan and Jiang Yi looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Destruction Authority General. Jiang Yi muttered, All right. This kid even hid it from his brothers. Zhao Xinyuan was also very unhappy. The others did not notice their emotions as they watched the battle nervously. The sudden attack pierced through Jiang Juesher's chest, but he did not panic at all. A spatial vortex appeared in his chest and crushed his arm. His chest recovered. The Destruction Authority General was about to continue attacking when an invisible force forced him back. Just as he stabilized himself, the Destruction Authority General exploded and vanished. On the other hand, Jiang Juesher was still so majestic and showed no signs of injury. Jiang Juesher was about to continue forward when he suddenly felt something and suddenly turned around. He saw that Dao Sovereign had unknowingly appeared behind him. He held the black and white halberd in both hands and slashed out. The sound of the halberd colliding was extremely ear-piercing, as if it contained some kind of magic. Even Jiang Juesher was stunned. The situation suddenly changed. Boom! The black and white halberd emitted a terrifying black wind and white blades that swept through the entire void. The ultimate god of punishment's armor trembled, and his cloak fluttered behind him. Facing this violent attack, Jiang Juesher had just recovered when his body had already transformed into a flying star, leaving only his head. His eyes widened as he looked at Dao's sovereign with a hint of shock. Dao's sovereign was expressionless. He threw out his two halberds and surrounded Jiang Juesher's head. Black lightning erupted along the halberd blade and interwove into a lightning net to trap him. Jiang Juesher condensed and recovered his body. Countless bolts of lightning interwove on his body, causing him extreme pain. He had no choice but to use the power of creation to block. Dao's sovereign leaped up. Thunderclouds had unknowingly appeared above him and hung high above his head. After entering the thundercloud, it surged violently. It was vast and boundless, as if it covered the entire chaos. Whoosh! The thundercloud suddenly burst open, and a destruction authority general that was dozens of times more majestic than before appeared. The 10-million-foot-tall Jiang Juesher was inferior to an eyeball of the destruction authority general. The destruction authority general punched down. Space collapsed and the bottom of the chaos shook like an earthquake. Jiang Juesher suddenly looked up and shouted angrily. The great reincarnation creation technique emitted a terrifying light, causing the void of the battle to be as bright as day. Facing the domineering destruction authority general, he struck out with his palm. It was the divine might great heaven palm, but it was as if countless clones rushed out of his body and rushed towards the destruction authority general as he struck out with his palm. In the blink of an eye, all the living beings in 10 Absolute City only felt the sky flash before the two sides collided again. Zhao Xinyuan swallowed. Not bad. Junior Jiang is really fierce. Zhao Shuangquan and Azure Heaven Mystic were a little stunned. Su Qi patted Zhao Shuangquan's shoulder and said, "After all, they have lived longer than you. You can't compare them like this." Ji Xianxian stood beside Azure Heaven Mystic and sighed. "If you can obtain the Eternal Peak now, what's the point of this chaos to you?" Azure Heaven Mystic came back to his senses and nodded heavily. He stared at the sky with a burning gaze. The strong light in the sky dissipated. The thundercloud had already dissipated. Dao's sovereign stood proudly in the void looking down at Jiang Juesher. Jiang Juesher was no longer 10 million feet tall. Only his soul was left. His body was still surrounded by black lightning, and he could not move. He stared at Dao's sovereign and asked, "What was that just now?" Dao's sovereign looked down at him and said, "The great Dao Providence Divine Authority. It is the power that surpasses the 3,000 great Dao." With that, Jiang Juesher's soul dissipated like smoke. The hidden sex Dao sovereign defeated the hidden sex Jiang Juesher. The ultimate god of punishment's voice resounded throughout the entire 10 Absolute City, causing a commotion. Hanju frowned and asked in his mind, "I want to know the state of Dao sovereign when he is strongest in the future. 5 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Wow! 5 times the value of a Dao creator. Continue. Hanju wanted to see how strong the future Dao sovereign was. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1022 Rise of the Emperor Star. Chapter 1022 Rise of the Emperor Star. Time passed. More than 2 million years passed. Detected that you are 40 million years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately, and open the ultimate origin world in the chaos. You can obtain a great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and stay away from trouble. You can obtain a great Dao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. Hanju silently chose the second option. This time, the system was very reliable. The rewards for both options were the same. Currently, he had already accumulated 8 great Dao fragments, 6 primordial fragments, and 5 creation spirit stones. The previous creation spirit stones were used to give birth to chaotic fiend celestials. He kept this item now that all the chaotic fiend celestials had been born on their own. The creation spirit stone could turn anything into a living being. Hanju felt that it could be useful in the future. As for the creation heavens chosen, he did not use it immediately. There was no hurry. He began to observe the chaos. After so many years, Han Yi and Han Yao had already grown up. Especially Han Yao. He had become the new divine general of the heavenly court. His prestige was extremely high. Some voices even said that he was the General Huang from back then. Perhaps even stronger. And the more the conquest heavenly star fought, the stronger he became. In terms of performance on the battlefield, Han Yao was indeed stronger than the past Han Huang. It was mainly because Han Huang had always swept through any battle back then. Unlike Han Yao, who was occasionally at a disadvantage, but he relied on his great providence and turned the tables alone. So he created a greater spirit. Han Ju was very satisfied with Han Yao's performance. This kid was worthy of his 10,000 years of teaching. He vividly displayed the characteristics of the conquest heavenly star. Han Yi was the same. He followed Dao Sovereign and the other three and slaughtered negative karma living beings everywhere. His cultivation was not weaker than Han Yao's, perhaps slightly stronger. It had to be said that Dao Sovereign and the other three were indeed a little unlucky. They fought wherever they went. Now the group of 4 had become a group of 5. Unlike before, they were seldom severely injured. It seemed that they had completely made a comeback. Han Ju looked at Han Ling beside him. Her cultivation level had been increasing. He suddenly looked forward to her entering the fray. However, Han Ju had to make the endless era descend first if Han Ling wanted to come out. Otherwise, this girl would be easily suppressed. However, he didn't know if he had to rely on the 9th chaos to attain the Creator Lord realm, or the primordial fiend celestial to break through the blank domain during the endless era for the time being. Han Ling felt his gaze and opened her eyes. She asked, "Father, what's wrong?" Han Ju smiled and said, "I'm thinking about the commotion your appearance will cause." Han Ling smiled and said, "Father, what are you saying? There won't be a commotion even if I go out. I'm not that kind of person." Han Ju didn't expose her. The father and daughter chatted for a while before continuing to cultivate. Han Ju had a sudden thought and asked in his mind, "I want to know what my daughter Han Ling will be like at her peak. 100 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue?" Gasp. It was comparable to the 9th chaos. So impressive. Continue, continue. Han Ju suppressed his excitement, and his consciousness entered the illusion. He was in the blank domain when he opened his eyes again. Unlike reality, countless universes were floating in the future. Every black void was dotted with countless stars, or the vast great Tao worlds. Han Ju looked up, and his mood subconsciously brightened. Endless era. It was more imposing and vast than the chaos. The chaos was like a cage in Han Ju's eyes after attaining the great Tao supreme realm. Soon a mighty figure descended. Her body shone with a strong light. 7 great Tao worlds stood under her feet, beside her, and above her head. Even Han Ju had to look up to her. Han Ling. Han Ju inexplicably thought of the Holy Mother of Order. This was a complete replica of her. Han Ling seemed to be floating in the void. She had her hands on her back, and was wearing silver divine armor. Her lotus dress fluttered like divine colors. Her long hair scattered under her crown like a waterfall. The surrounding 7 great Tao worlds showed that she was supreme and unparalleled. How holy and domineering! Han Ju finally saw the glory of the primordial emperor star. He suddenly saw 2 figures in front of Han Ling. They were billions of feet tall, and were also domineering. However, they were like stones at the foot of a mountain in front of Han Ling, extremely tiny. Han Yi Han Yao. The former wore black armor, while the latter wore silver armor. One was black and the other was white like 2 sides of yin and yang. TSK, this girl still listened to me. She really took in these 2 brats. Han Ju laughed in his heart. He was very satisfied with Han Ling's attitude. At least this girl was obedient. He was really worried that Han Ling would be jealous of the 2 of them, and not tolerate them. The more Han Ju looked at the 3 of them, the more he liked them. Emperor Star, Killing Star, Conquest Star. It was a match made in heaven. He wondered where the 3 of them were going. Han Ling suddenly stopped, and raised her right hand, then slowly clenched it. In an instant, the blank void above Han Ju's head tore open. Han Ju looked up. In the spatial crack was the image of a great Tao world. There were countless living beings guarding the edge of the crack, ready to attack at any time. The devil race's providence has come to an end, but you want to cause endless chaos. Today, You will even lose the place to struggle at death's door. Conquest heavenly star, ultimate killing star come. Han Ling's voice was indifferent and dignified. Here. Here. Han Yi and Han Yao shouted at the same time, causing the spatial crack above Han Ju's head to fluctuate violently and tear wider. The illusion shattered. Han Ju opened his eyes and didn't know what to say. He had spent 100 quadrillion years of his lifespan. He still wanted to see what would happen next. However, although this illusion was short, it revealed a lot of information. Han Ling seemed to control great authority in the endless era. She could slaughter a great Tao world just because she wanted to? TSK. It was unknown how long it was in the future, but there were actually so many great Tao worlds. Han Ju felt a sense of urgency. He was becoming stronger, and so were others. There were only 5 Tao creators now, but the future was uncertain. Could the 9th chaos really become a creator lord? Han Ju's heart skipped a beat. No. He had to hurry up and cultivate. It would take him a long time to catch up to the 9th chaos in terms of cultivation. Han Ju closed his eyes and started cultivating heavenly Tao. Outside the 33rd heaven, Han's sacred palace. Han Qing'er smiled and said, "Fifth brother, you still haven't attained the great Tao after so many years. You're a little embarrassing to our Han family." The middle-aged man sitting at the head of the table was Li Yao's son, Han Yunjin. Facing his sister's teasing, Han Yunjin said helplessly, "I don't have the talent of my brothers and sisters, so I naturally can't attain the great Tao. However, my descendant Han Yao didn't embarrass the Han family." Jiang Juesher, who was sitting opposite Han Qing'er, smiled and said, "Han Yao is indeed powerful. He has Junior Huang's potential. His Majesty, the Heavenly Emperor, likes him very much." Han Qing'er glared at him, causing him to laugh helplessly and not say anything else. Han Yunjin asked curiously, "Why are third sister and senior Jiang here?" Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1023 Finding the Fiend Celestial. Chapter 1023 Finding the Fiend Celestial. It had been a long time, but Han Yunjin and Han Qing'er were still quite distant. Although Han Qing'er acted like they were close, Han Yunjin couldn't help but wonder what it was. The difference in cultivation between the siblings was great, so they rarely walked around. Han Qing'er smiled and said, "I want to ask if there are any prodigies like Han Yao in the Han family. Your second brother wants to take in a disciple. He doesn't have any children, so he can only find one from your niece." Han Yunjin was moved and looked happy. He was a heavenly Tao sage after all. He had traveled the chaos, and naturally knew Han Huang's prestige. The current Han Huang could be considered a top mighty figure in the chaos. He could cover the ages with one hand. His mystical power was unimaginable. Han Yunjin said, "My Han family has many geniuses. Each generation is stronger than the last. Since second brother wants a disciple, I naturally have to choose the strongest one." Han Qing'er immediately beamed and covered her mouth. "Fifth brother, don't disappoint third sister. I promise second brother." Han Yunjin smiled and nodded. He immediately sent a voice transmission. After making arrangements, Han Yunjin asked curiously, "Why does second brother suddenly want to take in a disciple?" Han Qing'er spread her hands, indicating that she didn't know. Jiang Juesher said, "Mighty figures have been thinking of ways to create their own world ever since the appearance of the consciousnessless Great Tao world and the transcendent Great Tao world. Junior Huang is no exception. He needs someone to guide all living beings in his world. This saves trouble." Han Yunjin was deep in thought. He had also heard of the Great Tao world, but in his opinion, it was only the largest world. He could also create a world, but it did not affect his cultivation level much. It was already tiring enough to manage the Han family, so he naturally couldn't be bothered to create a world. Han Qing'er snorted. "Second brother is simply crazy. He has already reached the peak of history, and is even a divine punisher. He dominates a chaotic domain. Fewer than 5 existences can match him in the chaos. He's actually still busy cultivating in seclusion. In another 10 million years, perhaps the juniors will no longer remember him, just like father. In this current world, how many living beings still remember the divine might heavenly sage?" Jiang Juesher smiled, and did not refute or agree. The higher he stood, the more he knew about the depths of the chaos. Han Yanjin asked, "How is father?" "How would I know? He's always in seclusion. Only Sister Linger can always be by his side," Han Qing'er replied. Han Yanjin fell into deep thought at the mention of Han Ling. Not long after, a sage of the Han family brought a handsome prodigy over. Jiang Juesher sized him up with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. He also wanted to choose a prodigy to enter his world. After 5 million years, the races in the mortal world changed. The heavenly Tao and the sun and moon spun. The eras changed and the chaos also changed day by day. Han Ju opened his eyes and felt his dermic powers. The ultimate origin world developed steadily. There was already a vast world. The ultimate origin chi was endless and filled the world. The spirit chi was already far superior to the chaos in terms of cultivation. Han Ju first entered the simulation trial and challenged 100 formless transcendent deities. He won easily. 200 formless transcendent deities. An hour later, Han Ju had the upper hand. He was satisfied. After all, they were Tao creators. Every additional one was not simple. In any case, he was not afraid of anyone other than the ninth chaos. Han Ju recalled that the ultimate god of punishment had sent him a dream request tens of thousands of years ago. But he was busy in seclusion and ignored it. He sent a dream to the ultimate god of punishment now. The dream was the chaotic void. The ultimate god of punishment immediately bowed when he saw him. Han Ju smiled and asked, "The chaos has been stable recently. The number of great Tao divine spirits has increased greatly. The overlords and ancient giants all listen to you. Why are you visiting me in my dreams?" The ultimate god of punishment smiled and said, "It's all thanks to Master that I obtained Han Huang, like obtaining the universal divine pillar. The current chaos has indeed reached an unprecedented peace, but many strange things have happened recently. For example, the great Tao have become spirits and the supreme rules have fluctuated. Since ancient times, although there have been times when the great Tao have become spirits, it has not been as frequent as in the past millions of years. Every time the supreme rules fluctuate, a race will be born in a corner of the chaos. These races have potential that is not inferior to the chaotic fiend celestials. Furthermore, they all have different talents. They are solitary and warlike. I'm worried that they will become a source of uneasiness." Han Ju said, "Why don't you eliminate them since you're worried?" The ultimate god of punishment said, "I indeed wanted to do that, but I was stopped by a mysterious force and had no choice but to stop. I suspect that I was stopped by the Lord of Chaos. However, the Lord of Chaos clearly conferred me the title of leader of the divine spirits after the chaotic assembly ended. Why didn't he tell me bluntly if he wanted to protect those races?" He hesitated but didn't continue. Instead, he stared at him. Han Ju said, "You're right. Perhaps it's not the Lord of Chaos." The ultimate god of punishment was moved. Han Ju continued, "The next trend in the chaos is the primordial fiend celestial. He will stir up the great Tao immeasurable calamity. Transcendent existences are all waiting for the primordial fiend celestial to appear. What you have to do is find it and help it grow. You have to wait for the great Tao immeasurable calamity to arrive." The ultimate god of punishment asked in surprise, "Primordial fiend celestial? Isn't that a legend? Besides, why will the primordial fiend celestial harm the chaos? Creation after destruction. You just need to find it and let it develop." Han Ju shook his head. The ultimate god of punishment pondered in silence. Han Ju didn't point out that Han Huang was the primordial fiend celestial. He wanted Han Huang to prove himself. "I understand. Thank you for your guidance, Master." The ultimate god of punishment bowed respectfully. The dream ended. Han Ju's consciousness returned to reality. He opened his eyes and looked at the chaos. Those old friends had already become leaders in all directions. They were so impressive, and were no longer like when they fought back then. Not bad. Han Ju enjoyed his current life very much. He didn't have to worry about the future. He paid attention to the races that the ultimate god of punishment had mentioned. There were already dozens of them, all scattered at the edges of the chaos. At first glance, they seemed to be developing from the edges inside. These races were rather strange. They didn't have bodies and their souls were shaped. They almost didn't have the appearance of humans. One had to know that the human race had the connate Tao body. It was a body that the Tao ancestors studied Tao techniques, and was the most suitable for cultivation and transformation. That was why Niuai used it to create humans, and why they were conferred the title of the protagonists of the heavenly Tao. Hanju couldn't be bothered to calculate these races. He couldn't directly interfere, even if it was a Tao creator's plot. Currently, everyone was minding their own business, and was doing well. Wasn't that what he wanted? No one could cultivate faster than Hanju as long as he was given time. His gaze landed on the five, including Tao Sovereign. They were still in the transcendent Great Tao world. Now the transcendent Great Tao world had been completely exposed. It used to hide in the dark, but now, it looked like it was being devoured by the chaos. Hanju could see at a glance that the two worlds were fusing. It was not only the transcendent Great Tao world. The consciousnessless Great Tao world was also fusing with the chaos. Hanyu was correct in following them. He had been killing all these years, and had even raised living beings in the Great Tao world. When they became stronger, and the various factions fought for supremacy, causing the people of an area to live in misery, he would especially come to kill them to become a killing star. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1024 Rage. Chapter 1024 Rage. Hanju couldn't be bothered to comment on Hanye's actions. He would definitely hate him to death if he was a living being who had transcended the Great Tao world. However, he had nothing to say from a cultivation point of view. Humans loved to rear living beings of other races. They were used as labor or food sources. It was no different from Hanye's actions. Hanju wouldn't interfere as long as he didn't kill him. Hanye's cultivation level grew very quickly. Other than killing, it was also related to Tao's sovereign and the other three. The four of them could be said to have taught Hanye everything they knew, and even talked about the comprehension of the great Tao Providence divine authority. Hanju was very satisfied with Tao's sovereign and the other three. They had good judgment. After tens of millions of years, Tao's sovereign and the other two didn't forget their roots. Lao Dan didn't scheme either. The clone and the main body seemed to be independent. Hanju looked at the other disciples. Zhou Fan, Jiang Juesher, Long Hao Feng Liang, and the others were also doing well. The personal disciples of the heavenly Tao were also extremely powerful and insufferably arrogant. As for Han Tua, Han Huang and Han Qing'er, the first two were busy in seclusion. Han Qing'er traveled around with Jiang Juesher. Hanju teleported to the main Tao field and called Hanyu over. Hanyu was the leader of the 10,000 members of the Nether race. Back then, the Magus race was expelled by the heavenly Tao. In order to cover her loss of the Magus race, Empress Hutu established the Nether race and gave them extremely strong talent, depriving them of their ability to reproduce. Until now, there were still only 10,000 Nether race members. However, they suffered no casualties because they stayed in the 100-peak Immortal River all year round. Hanyu was very excited to see Hanju again. He had almost forgotten his appearance after tens of millions of years. He didn't expect Hanju to still remember him. Hanju first asked about his well-being, making Hanyu grateful. Hanyu, I want the 10,000 Nether race members to move to a world under my jurisdiction and become gods, leading all living beings in survival. What do you think? Hanju retracted his smile and asked. Hanyu immediately said, Sect Master, the Nether race will follow you forever. To them, Hanju was not only the sect master but also their father. However, the hidden sect was powerful now, so they couldn't get close to him. Hanju immediately asked Hanyu to gather the Nether race. Half a day later, Hanju took the 10,000 Nether race members into the Ultimate Origin world and sent them near the Life Fiend Celestial. He asked them to get along well and govern the Ultimate Origin world together in the future. The Life Fiend Celestial was currently the strongest Fiend Celestial in the Ultimate Origin world. It already had a great Tao cultivation. Most of the Nether race members were at the Freedom Realm and could assist the Life Fiend Celestial. The Life Fiend Celestial didn't dare to bully the Nether race with Hanju watching. Furthermore, he had observed for a long time. The Life Fiend Celestial was gentle and not as ferocious as it looked. Hanju returned to the third Dao field after instructing him. He returned to the Taoist temple after interacting with his Dao companions for hundreds of years. He looked at the universe of stars. The current universe of stars was filled with races and was extremely prosperous. Liu Bei had already nurtured a batch of disciples to govern this universe. Then, he returned to the third Dao field and cultivated in peace. After so many years, Liu Bei's desire for power had already calmed. He finally understood Hanju's efforts. Only cultivation was eternal. Power could only bring short-term joy. Of course, the short-term here could cover the lives of mortals. Hanju watched for a while and lost interest. Although this universe of stars was created by him, it had already been devoured and fused by the chaos. The providence was connected and no longer belonged to him. He should pay attention to the ultimate origin world in the future. Hanju thought silently and closed his eyes to cultivate. In the blank domain, Han Huang meditated quietly. There was nothing in all directions, not even spirit qi. The ultimate god of punishment suddenly appeared and sized him up. He did not disturb him. Han Huang sensed his aura, but did not open his eyes. He continued cultivating primordial fiend celestial. Where should I find it? The ultimate god of punishment thought silently. His eyes suddenly lit up. Wasn't Han Huang the most suitable person? Because Hanju was a chaotic fiend celestial. No living being would think that Han Huang was a primordial fiend celestial. How could a primordial fiend celestial be born from a chaotic fiend celestial? However, the primordial fiend celestial did not exist. According to Master, he could choose one. Should he let Han Huang take over? No. This concerned the great Tao immeasurable calamity. The primordial fiend celestial might become cannon fodder. Since ancient times, all existences who served as the protagonists of the calamity did not die well. The ultimate god of punishment said, Han Huang, I'm looking for you this time about the great Tao calamity. Han Huang opened his eyes and asked, Great Tao immeasurable calamity? Please speak. The great Tao immeasurable calamity is already brewing. It might take 10 million years, or hundreds of millions of years. We have to find the primordial fiend celestial before it arrives. The ultimate god of punishment said slowly. Han Huang's expression did not change, but he became vigilant. He had naturally figured out his bloodline with his current cultivation. He was the primordial fiend celestial. It was precisely because he knew that he was higher than the chaotic fiend celestial that Han Huang wanted to cultivate diligently. Although he had obtained the eternal peak in the chaotic assembly, he had not left the 10 absolutes behind. He was still considered a prodigy of the same level by the various factions. How could he tolerate this? Han Huang was naturally arrogant as a primordial fiend celestial with greater talent than the chaotic fiend celestial. Han Huang said, Stop looking. I'm the primordial fiend celestial. The ultimate god of punishment was moved. The primordial fiend celestial is the key to the great Tao immeasurable calamity. You can't pretend. I'm looking for you because I hope that you can help me find it. Han Huang stood up and stared at him. I am the primordial fiend celestial. I know the danger you're talking about, but I am. Stop looking. The ultimate god of punishment was silent. Han Huang was even more furious upon seeing his attitude. Could it be that you don't believe me? The ultimate god of punishment smiled bitterly. I believe you. That's all for now. Cultivate well. As for the great Tao immeasurable calamity, there are no signs yet. With that he vanished. Han Huang meditated as his eyes emitted a purple light. Great Tao immeasurable calamity. Perhaps this is the opportunity for me to break through to a higher realm. Han Huang thought silently and clenched his fists. He actually began to look forward to the great Tao immeasurable calamity. A world had already been established in the depths of his soul. There was still a long time before it turned into the primordial chaos. He was vexed by this. Now the great Tao immeasurable calamity had given him a trace of hope. Han Huang did not notice that wisps of yellow qi appeared behind him. They were surging and condensing into a human form. He suddenly turned around when he realized that something was wrong. A head surrounded by yellow qi appeared in front of him. The two were less than half a meter apart. This head had disheveled hair and a face like a crimson ghost. Its eyes were sunken and had no whites. Its pupils were like snakes and scorpions as it stared at him. Han Huang did not panic and asked calmly, "Who are you?" The yellow head smiled sinisterly. "Primordial Fiend Celestial, are you willing to stay in the chaos?" Han Huang narrowed his eyes. "You should have been spying on me in the past million years, right?" "That's right. I can help you if you want to create the primordial chaos." "Oh, then what do you want?" "Like you, I also have a world that needs to be created, but I'm suppressed by the chaos and can't do anything. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1025 Upgrade of the Simulation Trial. Chapter 1025 Upgrade of the Simulation Trial. Han Huang asked upon hearing the yellow head's words. "What can you do?" The yellow chi head smiled and said, "Let's discuss the great Tao immeasurable calamity together. I will become your greatest help and not take action behind your back and enjoy the benefits." Han Huang smiled. "You have to prove your strength first if you want to cooperate with me." Boom! A terrifying aura erupted from Han Huang's body. His robes fluttered violently as nebulous primordial chi coiled around his body like a hurricane. He was insufferably arrogant. The yellow head slowly retreated and smiled. As expected of the primordial fiend celestial, such an aura is considered invincible among the great Tao supremes. Han Huang snorted. The yellow head began to condense yellow chi. Flesh and blood stretched out from under the head, producing a body at an extremely fast speed. Han Huang waited patiently, also wanting to see the other party's strength. He had not fought to his heart's content ever since the chaotic assembly ended. Primordial Fiend Celestial, your potential is impressive, but how many geniuses have there been since ancient times? You've only cultivated for tens of millions of years. To me, your life is like a breath of time for mortals, the yellow head said meaningfully. Han Huang frowned. Let's fight first. Millions of years passed. Detected that you are 50 million years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately, and open the primordial chaos in the chaos. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a supreme treasure. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the system function. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. A chance to upgrade the system function. This was new. It appeared in the second option. Hanju looked satisfied. The system was sensible now. He directly chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner, and obtained a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the system function. Please choose a system function to upgrade. Hanju thought for a moment, and chose the creation heavens chosen. The creation heavens chosen is already top-notch, and cannot be upgraded, unless you surpass the ultimate origin fiend celestial. Indeed, the creation heavens chosen was related to the ultimate origin world. So the ultimate origin world's great creation was higher than Jiang Juesher's great creation of the chaos. Hanju thought for a moment, and chose the simulation trial. The simulation trial was extremely useful, as it allowed Hanju to judge the strength of his enemies. Do you choose to upgrade the simulation trial? Yes. Simulation trial has begun to upgrade. He actually needed to wait. Hanju focused on the Great Tao fragment. 9 Great Tao fragments had been gathered, but he didn't need a Great Tao mystical power. It was better to keep them in case they were useful in the future. 9 Great Tao fragments could form a Great Tao mystical power. What about 99? Hanju was looking forward to it. Since he had nothing to do, Hanju decided to rest. He looked at Han Ling opened her eyes, and waited for Hanju's instructions upon sensing his gaze. This girl's cultivation had already reached the perfected Great Tao Supreme Realm. How fast! However, it was still very slow compared to Hanju. After all, the father and daughter were only 10 million years apart. Hanju had already become a Tao creator at her age. Have you been troubled by cultivation recently? Hanju asked. Hanling said, Indeed. It's very difficult for the world I created to become the Great Tao world you mentioned. I can't condense 3,000 Great Tao. What should I do? Hanju smiled. The Great Tao of Extreme Origin, I taught you, contains the truths of the 3,000 Great Tao. You can absorb the rules of the 3,000 Great Tao of the chaos and derive them yourself. Han Ling was enlightened and immediately stood up. Father, I want to go out. Han Ju smiled and nodded, sending her out of the third Tao field. Han Ling immediately jumped out of the chaos and arrived under the 3,000 Great Tao. Speaking of which, this was the first time this girl went out alone. Han Ju was a little worried and stared at her. She had few opponents in the chaos with her cultivation level, but Han Ju was afraid that she would be deceived. How many fairies were seduced by mortals? Han Ju had heard many such stories in the past. This was Han Ju's most precious child. How could she be seduced by a thief? Han Ju paid attention silently. Han Ling absorbed the power of the 3,000 Great Tao and quickly attracted a mighty figure's attention. However, that mighty figure quickly retreated before he could say anything when he saw Han Ling. It turned out that his elder had once gone to the chaotic assembly. He remembered Han Ling's appearance and immediately sent a voice transmission telling him to scram. He couldn't provoke the heavenly sage's daughter. Not long after, the ultimate god of punishment came and talked to Han Ling. The mighty figures and giants did not dare to disturb him. Han Ling chatted with the ultimate god of punishment as she absorbed the power of rules. She displayed the attitude of a junior facing the ultimate god of punishment, making him very satisfied as he praised her. 100 years later, Han Huang and Han Tua also came to see Han Ling. It was naturally lively when the siblings gathered. At the same time, words appeared in front of Han Ju. Simulation trial successfully upgraded. Simulation trial. You can set the opponent's cultivation and strength level and simulate a battle. The upper limit is their past and future cultivation limits that the system can derive. It can also detect all living beings in a Great Tao world and duplicate their strength to fight. The outcome of the battle will not affect their physical and mental state. The number of times it can be used is unlimited. It could derive the enemy's future cultivation limit. The detection range covered a Great Tao world. Han Ju's eyes lit up in surprise. In other words, he could copy the cultivation levels of everyone in the chaos and fight wantonly. He could also fight with their future selves. Han Ju was in a good mood. He immediately copied the entire chaos and started the simulation trial. He directly challenged all living beings and asked the system to set the future limit of their cultivation. Wow! It would have been fine if it was not set up, but more than 20 Tao creators and more than 100,000 Great Tao sages appeared. The chaos was still impressive and contained many impressive geniuses. Most of these Tao creators were familiar to Han Ju, but some he had never heard of. A few of them surprised him. They could also become Tao creators? He had really misjudged them. Han Ju began to focus on the battle. 5 minutes later, he destroyed all living beings in the chaos. No pressure at all. Han Ju began to fight the formless transcendent deity alone. He discovered that the formless transcendent deity's limit was not much stronger than now. Just like that, Han Ju was immersed in the simulation trial. Tens of thousands of years later, Han Ling ended the absorption of the power of rules and prepared to leave. She suddenly saw a figure in the distance absorbing the power of the Great Tao. She took a closer look and saw that it was Laozi. Han Ling had learned about Laozi from her father and knew his true appearance. He was a top mighty figure of the chaos. Laozi felt her gaze and nodded slightly as a greeting. Han Ling bowed and prepared to leave. Young friend Han Ling, there's something I want to say, but do you think I should say it? Laozi's voice suddenly floated into her ears. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1026 Chaos Rises, Extreme Rage Tyrant Star. Chapter 1026 Chaos Rises. Extreme Rage Tyrant Star. Han Ling turned to look at him, vigilant. He said, Senior, what can I do for you? She only respected Laozi in name. Laozi said, I see that your providence is extraordinary. You will definitely rule the chaos in the future. The world that you want to create will be your Tao. What world you choose is extremely important for your future path. Don't take the wrong path. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. Han Ling bowed respectfully and left. Han Ju moved Han Ling back to the Tao field after she left the domain, where the 3,000 great Tao were. Laozi muttered as he looked in the direction she left. The divine might heavenly sage is really impressive. His bloodline inheritance is unprecedented. Could it be that he has grasped some kind of rule? In the third Tao field, Han Ling sat beside Han Ju and kept complaining about Laozi, feeling that he was relying on his seniority to lecture people. What right does he have to teach me? Is his world very good? I don't think he made a name for himself. In the past, he didn't dare to offend the Tao ancestor in the heavenly Tao. Later, he couldn't protect the three pure sacred world. How ridiculous, Han Ling said indignantly. Her cultivation level was similar to Laozi's, but she was treated as a junior. Han Ju smiled. Other than the difference in essence, there's actually not much of a difference between great Tao worlds. He just feels that if you govern the great Tao world with benevolence, the path you take will naturally be great. If you rear the living beings of the great Tao world and act recklessly, you will also do things without any worries. Han Ling curled his lips. Han Ju changed the topic and asked her how the trip went. Han Ling immediately became happy and said that she had already absorbed the power of the rules of the 3,000 great Tao and could create a new 3,000 great Tao in her great Tao world. The great Tao was unique in the chaos. There were no same great Tao, but there was no such restriction across the great Tao world. Several hours later, the father and daughter entered cultivation. The cultivation years in the Tao field were extremely calm, but the chaos surged. As more and more great Tao sages appeared, the accumulated conflicts began to erupt. The life faction began to bare its fangs. Huang Zuantian sent dozens of great Tao sages to use the domain of life as the center, and began to devour the surrounding chaotic domains. The Northern Chaos Holy Lord used the Tao of the Emperor, and began to attack the various domains, his might overflowing. Formless World, Great Heavenly God King, Universe Sage King, Zhou Great Tao Heaven, Evil Heavenly Emperor, Zhou Fan, Pangu, and the others also began to fight for supremacy. They weren't the only ones. Even the great Tao divine spirits were involved. The ultimate god of punishment did not stop them. It was obvious that he tacitly agreed. The leader of the divine spirits tacitly agreed, so the chaos was naturally in chaos. Hundreds of thousands of years passed after the war. On this day, the life factions Li Daokong fought Laozi. The two of them were originally master and grand disciple. Now that they had become powerful enemies, it naturally attracted countless spectators. This battle shook the world and alarmed most of the chaos. Even Han Ju and Han Ling in the Tao field were alarmed. Han Ju only took a look, and then went back to cultivating. Han Ling watched with relish. It was mainly because seeing Laozi being taught a lesson made her inexplicably happy. On this battle lasted for several days. In the end, the two sides fought to a draw. Li Daokong's name spread throughout the chaos, and he was conferred the title of Sword Venerable. The power of the life faction reached an unprecedented level as Li Daokong's reputation spread. The Life Lord, who was one of the 10 absolutes, and the unparalleled Sword Venerable were two giants that shook the world and presided over it. All the factions targeted by the Life faction fled or directly surrendered. More and more major factions began to fight for territory, startling many mighty figures who were still in seclusion. They didn't understand what had happened and why the sky had suddenly changed. They carefully deduced and discovered that all this chaos was caused by an existence. Primordial Fiend Celestial. It was unknown who had spread the news that the great Tao immeasurable calamity was about to arrive. The strongest providence could transform into a primordial fiend celestial and create the primordial chaos in the chaos. It could surpass the chaos and obtain an unprecedented supreme status. At first, the mighty figures felt that it was just a rumor, but later they went to the 7 supreme rules and deduced them. They discovered that the rumors about the primordial fiend celestial were true. Whoever had the strongest providence would be enlightened by the 7 supreme rules and advance to a primordial fiend celestial when the great Tao immeasurable calamity arrived. For a time, the entire chaos went mad. The higher one's cultivation level was, the crazier it became. In the blink of an eye, another 5 million years passed. Han Ju opened his eyes and looked happy. He finally saw a possibility of breaking through. He was only close to breaking through a minor realm after 20 million years. The Tao Creator realm was deep and difficult to break through. Many domains in the current Ultimate Origin world had also become lively. The Ultimate Origin world itself was also constantly expanding, looking like it was catching up to the chaos. The addition of 10,000 Nether race members was very useful for the advancement of the Ultimate Origin world. They had always stayed in the 100-peak Immortal River, so they were extremely proficient in teaching and preaching. Therefore, they preached everywhere in the Ultimate Origin world, and were already known as the Divine Race. Han Ling asked when she saw that he opened his eyes, "Father, is that Li Daokong really from our hidden sect? Can you tell me about him?" Clearly, the battle between Li Daokong and Laozi millions of years ago had stunned her. She had always thought that she could dominate the same realm by relying on the Emperor soldiers. Now she discovered that the other mighty figures also had impressive methods. Her Emperor soldiers only had dermic powers, but they did not have mystical powers or the power of the Great Tao. Of course, she still felt that she could defeat Li Daokong, and it was not difficult. It was just that she had other plans. Hanju smiled and recounted Li Daokong's past. Han Ling listened carefully. After Hanju finished speaking, Han Ling suddenly sighed. It's really not difficult to dominate the chaos with the Hidden Sect's foundation. It's just that father likes to cultivate and doesn't like to fight for hegemony. Otherwise, the chaos would have long been surnamed Han. Hanju asked, "Is Linger ambitious?" She was born to be an emperor. As Han Ling's cultivation level reached the peak of the chaos, and it was very difficult for her cultivation level to advance, her ambitions naturally began to grow. Han Ling hurriedly shook her head. "No, I'm just curious. The chaos is extremely lively now. From time to time, great Tao sages and even great Tao supremes fight." Hanju smiled and didn't expose her. The chaos was indeed lively. There must be a trap behind this, but Hanju didn't care. The endless era was what all the Tao creators wanted to see. He naturally would not stop it. There are still 2 more creation heavens chosen attempts. Should I use them to add some fuel to the great Tao immeasurable calamity? Hanju thought silently. He discovered that Han Ling was a little arrogant, and did not think highly of the living beings in the chaos. This was not good. He should give her some pressure by using the creation heavens chosen. Activating the creation heavens chosen. A random great creation will appear among your descendants. Your son Han Huang has awakened an innate great creation Ultimate Rage Tyrant Star. Ultimate Rage Tyrant Star. Innate great creation. It contains the pity of the Ultimate Origin Transcendent Rule. He can borrow the power of the Ultimate Origin Transcendent Rule. The angrier he is, the stronger the power of the Transcendent Rule he borrows. Hanju was stunned. Han Huang. Isn't this great creation the same as borrowing his father's power? Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1027 Paving the Way for His Daughter. Chapter 1027 Paving the Way for His Daughter. The Ultimate Rage Tyrant Star could borrow the power of the Ultimate Origin world. The power of the Ultimate Origin world was Hanju's power. Hanju didn't expect to become the source of his son's power. He didn't think too much about it. The ultimate origin power in his body was endless. How could Han Huang use it all? A trace of the Tao Creator's power was enough to crush the entire chaos. It had to be said that Han Huang was really lucky. Han Huang would become invincible with this power. Hanju thought. There was one last creation heavens chosen attempt left. He might as well use it together. It would be interesting if the chosen one was still Han Huang. Activating the creation heavens chosen. A random great creation will appear among your descendants. Your descendant Qin Bahen has awakened an innate great creation Ultimate Gravity Star. Ultimate Gravity Star. Innate strength and gravity Tao. It contains extreme power. As the Ultimate Origin world expands, its power will constantly increase. Not bad. But why was his surname not Han? Hanju began to deduce. It turned out that the difference between Qin Bahen and Han Yunjin was tens of thousands of generations. More than 10 generations of his ancestors had fallen into the mortal world. His mother's surname was Han, and she married into the Qin family because of the destruction of her family. The Qin family was the imperial family of the mortal world. Qin Bahen was a prince born with endless strength, but he was mentally deficient. He was like a 5 or 6-year-old child, and could not even speak clearly. He was usually used as a tool for battle, and did not receive the treatment of a prince. The first half of his life could be said to be rough. At this moment, Qin Bahen awakened the great creation, and his mind began to clear. The Green Mountains were continuous. An army was stationed in the mountainside. Beside the territory where the captives were imprisoned, a burly man leaned against the guardrail. He was dirty and his hair was mixed with soil. Beside him was a stable filled with the stench of feces. Qin Bahen. He slowly opened his eyes. The memories of the first 20 years of his life surged like a tide. He, who had recovered his mind, recalled those memories and felt bitter. He had contributed to the empire, but he couldn't even attend the court because of his lack of intelligence. He accidentally bumped into a concubine and was chased out of the palace by his father, and was raised in the army when he was 7 years old. The army was filled with boorish men, and no one took care of him. Therefore, his entire body emitted a stench since he was young. As he grew up and killed countless enemies, the stench became killing intent. The heavens are righteous. I didn't expect that I would wake up one day in my life. Qin Bahen slowly stood up and walked towards the commander-in-chief's camp. At this moment his eyes were bright. His entire body was like an unsheathed sword, revealing its edge. Han Ju stared at him silently. The Han family's descendants actually ended up in such a miserable state. If not for the creation heavens chosen this time, Qin Bahen would probably live a life worse than pigs and dogs, until he died on the battlefield. Qin Bahen might be placed in an important position if it was a chaotic world. However, the empire he was in was powerful. The surrounding dynasties would cause trouble at most, and could not affect the empire. In this situation, Qin Bahen was not very useful. The empire would still exist even if he died. Han Ju looked at Han Ling and said, I discovered that the Han family has an impressive descendant. Han Ling opened her eyes and deduced. Soon, she found Qin Bahen. Unlike the Conquest Heavenly Star and the Ultimate Killing Star, which needed to grow, the Ultimate Gravity Star was based on the Ultimate Killing Star, which was already very powerful. Han Ling frowned. A descendant of the Han family was actually humiliated like this. Father, what do you plan to do? Han Ju said, There are all sorts of things in the world. Our Han family has countless descendants. Some people are worse off than him. Do you want to save and help them all? Han Ling curled her lips and thought to herself, Then why are you asking me? Han Ju smiled and said, Let's wait and see. You can save him when he's in despair. Save him for what? You don't want to take him in? Huh? Han Ling was stunned for a moment before understanding. Han Ling felt a little uneasy at her father's gaze, as if she had been exposed. Han Ju said meaningfully, Han Yao, Han Yi and Qin Bahen, this is the path I can pave for you. You have to rely on yourself, whatever you want to do in the future. Han Ling couldn't pretend anymore. She indeed had ambitions, especially after witnessing the battle between the overlords of the chaos all these years. At this point, Han Ju felt that it was very difficult for Han Ling to improve. Even if she knew the method to create a great Tao world, it would take countless years to become a Tao creator. Han Ju said, Next is the endless era, when the entire situation changes. Before that, you still have to try your best to become stronger. Han Ling nodded. Father, I understand. Han Ju closed his eyes and started cultivating. Han Ling stared at Qin Bahen, waiting for an opportunity. Qin Bahen returned to the empire after he bid farewell to the army commander. He wanted to find his mother. Ever since he was young, he had never cared about his mother. Because he had given birth to a freak like him, his mother had also been banished. Qin Bahen wanted to enter the palace upon arriving at the imperial city, but he was stopped. In his anger, he forcefully barged in and attracted the attention of the guards. Soon the matter alerted the emperor. The emperor was furious. He used his identity as his father to force Qin Bahen to stop. The emperor was very shocked by Qin Bashan's awakening. However, Qin Bashan's mother was already dead. He was afraid that Qin Bahen would go mad, so he deliberately changed the topic. However, Qin Bahen was unwilling and finally asked the truth. Qin Bahen went mad when he learned that his mother had been killed by the empress. He started a massacre in the palace and swore to kill the empress. The emperor was furious and had no choice but to invite the immortal sect to suppress him. Qin Bashan's bravery was no longer something that a mortal army could stop. Qin Bahen was still unstoppable as he faced the cultivators. He fought until the sky turned red. The empress was from a cultivation family. Her disciples protected her with all their might. Things were getting out of hand. In the end, more than one Mahayana cultivator was alerted, and they used a spell to suppress Qin Bahen. Qin Bahen was tied up by a golden rope in the ruins of the palace. His body was covered in talismans, and his legs were wrapped in tree roots. Thorns pierced through his flesh and blood splattered all over the ground. Qin Bashan's eyes were red, and his face was covered in blood. He stared at the dozen cultivators in the sky. The surrounding soldiers raised their weapons and trembled in fear. A white-robed elder said, "Your Majesty, this child is sinful. It's better to kill him." The other Mahayana cultivators also said that they had to kill Qin Bahen. Apart from the imperial palace suffering heavy losses, even their sects were the same. The emperor was furious. He wanted to agree, but his heart ached inexplicably when he saw Qin Bashan's miserable state. He indeed owed this son a lot. However, it was no longer his decision at this point. The Qin family's empire relied on these sects to survive. Qin Bahen said angrily, "Kill me. I want revenge even if I turn into a ghost. I must kill the empress. I will never rest." The white-robed elder snorted, "Ghost, I'll extract your soul and make sure you can't reincarnate. You'll be in pain forever." He raised his hand and prepared to cast a spell. Boom! The sky suddenly changed. Thunderclouds gathered, and a terrifying heavenly might descended. Such a change moved everyone. They looked up. The group of Mahayana cultivators was also shocked. This was definitely not a normal phenomenon. Thank you for reading on mybox novel. Com. Chapter 1028 Qin Bashan's Shock. Chapter 1028 Qin Bashan's Shock. Ha ha ha. It seems that even the heavens can't stand it anymore. Qin Bahen laughed wantonly, but his laughter was filled with hatred. The expressions of the Mahayana cultivators changed, but they were not afraid. They had lived for thousands of years and had experienced all sorts of storms. How could they let Qin Bahen go? The white-robed elder was the first to attack. He took out a flying sword from his sleeve, intent on beheading Qin Bahen. Boom! A bolt of lightning descended from the sky and shattered the flying sword. Following that, it shattered all the restrictions on Qin Bashan's body, causing the talismans to turn into dust. Qin Bahen was stunned. The Mahayana cultivators were stunned. The palace was the same. A cold female voice resounded through the world. "Mere mortals dare to humiliate our Han family's bloodline? Believe it or not, even immortals won't dare to stop me from destroying this mortal world." Han Ling's voice was extremely domineering. The anger contained in it caused the temperature of the world to suddenly decrease. Everyone was shocked. How arrogant! The Mahayana cultivators were all shocked. The other party brought the heavenly might and was not something they could defeat. However, Han family, the white-robed elder looked at the emperor and discovered that he was shocked. "Junior, take revenge. Whoever tries to stop you will be destroyed in body and soul. After taking revenge, follow me to the upper world to cultivate and transcend your mortal body." Han Ling's voice sounded, causing a ferocious glint to appear in Qin Bashan's eyes. He stood up trembling and walked towards the empress. Surrounded by a group of cultivators, the empress was so frightened that her face turned pale. She collapsed to the ground. She screamed in fear and asked for help upon seeing Qin Bahen walking towards her. The cultivators guarding her were scared out of their wits. How could they dare to fight? Han Ling's appearance made them think that the immortals were furious. They all fled in fear. The Mahayana cultivators looked at the white-robed elder. His expression was dark. He didn't say a word, but he did not give any more orders. Clearly, he wanted to preserve his lineage. Qin Bahen brushed past the emperor. The emperor hurriedly turned around and said with a trembling voice, "Son, stop." Qin Bahen ignored him and quickly approached the empress. He punched down. How could the weak empress withstand a punch from him? She died on the spot, blood splattering all over the ground. Qin Bahen turned to look at the cultivators in the sky and shouted angrily, "Ancestor of the Han family, can you kill them for me?" "You!" The white-robed elder was shocked and furious. He had already tacitly agreed to Qin Bashan's revenge, but he did not show them any mercy. "All right." Han Ling's voice sounded, causing the Mahayana cultivators to panic. The white-robed elder immediately shouted, "Kill this kid first." The Mahayana cultivators attacked one after another. All sorts of spells landed on Qin Bahen. Although he was powerful, he did not have dermic powers. In addition, he was severely injured and could not dodge. However, these spells vanished like smoke just as they were about to land on him. Screams descended from the sky, as the Mahayana cultivators all fell in front of him. Qin Bahen grinned, extremely relieved. The emperor stared at this scene in a daze, extremely regretful. He suddenly recalled what concubine Han had said when he had thrown her into the cold palace. "Your Majesty, you covet the power of the empress family. You will definitely regret it if our Han family finds our ancestor in the future." He was arrogant and did not take her seriously. Now that he thought about it, he felt extremely stupid. This stupidity would send the Qin family into eternal damnation. Third Dao Field. Qin Bahen had already changed into new clothes. His injuries had healed, and the dirt on his body had disappeared. Although he was strong, he was handsome, and was not as sinister and ferocious as before. Xing Hongxian, Qing Wan and the disciples of the Dao Field surrounded Qin Bahen, making him uneasy. TSK, as expected of your descendant. He's really good looking. He's too many generations apart. Qin Bahen was extremely nervous, and did not dare to speak as he faced the two ancestors. At this moment, Han Ling walked over and smiled. "Mothers, don't make things difficult for him anymore." A few days ago, he was still acting like a child due to his mental deficiency. How can he withstand your teasing? Xing Hongxian and Qing Wan had been far from the heavenly Dao for a long time, and could not deduce the situation there. After all, they were not great Dao Supremes. The two women were curious, and began to ask about him. Han Ling did not hide anything, and told them about Qin Bashan's past. The two women were indignant. Qin Bahen remained silent. It was unknown what he was thinking. Then, Han Ling brought him to the Taoist temple. Qin Bahen was shocked upon seeing Hanju. He wondered how someone could look so perfect. Han Ling said, "This is my father, who is also the father of the Han family's ancestor." The Han family's ancestor is the heavenly Dao sage, Han Yunjin. Heavenly Dao sage? Qin Bahen was shocked. Although he did not understand what this meant, it sounded very grand. Hanju didn't open his eyes. Han Ling began to introduce the rest of the family to Qin Bahen. Qin Bahen was silent as Han Ling talked about the generations of the Han family. Although he was shocked, he felt very uncomfortable. Qin Bahen couldn't help but ask after she finished speaking. Since the Han family is so powerful, why did they let their descendants suffer? If I'm already like this, there must be other disciples of the Han family wandering outside. Han Ling frowned and said, "The Han family has countless descendants. The Han family has given you life, and has no responsibility to protect you for your entire life. Among the mortals in the world, who doesn't have a prominent ancestor?" Qin Bahen asked. "Then why did you help me? Because of my talent? Your talent was also given to you by me. Otherwise, you would still be lacking in intelligence, and would be miserable for life." It was Hanju who spoke. His voice was calm, but it carried an indescribable dignity, making Qin Bahen even more nervous than when facing Han Ling. He looked at Hanju, and saw that the latter had quietly opened his eyes, and was staring at him, scaring him so much that he lowered his head. Han Ling also looked at her father in surprise. Talent could be given? Hanju stared at Qin Bahen and said, "The Han family has countless disciples. You were chosen by me not because I like you. This is your fate. Facing my descendants, I chose them fairly. No matter who is chosen, it is their own opportunity. You don't have to worry, but recognize that I don't owe the Han family anything. If not for me, the Han family wouldn't even exist." Qin Bahen was silent. He understood that his words were indeed unreasonable after he calmed down. He looked up again and asked, "Ancestor, what do you need me to do?" Hanju said, "From now on, you will serve my daughter." Qin Bahen looked at Hanling. Hanling smiled and said, "Don't worry. You can cultivate here. I've cultivated for tens of millions of years, since I was born. I've only gone out twice and have never encountered any danger." Qin Bahen nodded, shocked. Tens of millions of years? Then, Hanju closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Hanling stood up and left with Qin Bahen. She built a Taoist temple at the side for him. She first taught him the cultivation technique. Then she instructed after Qin Bahen noted it down. "Don't come to our Taoist temple if there's nothing. My father is always in seclusion. Every seclusion lasts for 5 million years. I'll teach you personally when you encounter a bottleneck in your cultivation. If you're bored, you can look for those disciples. But I hope you can spend most of your energy on cultivation. To say something that might hurt your dignity, what happened to your mother still came from you being too weak. You can still repay your mother after she reincarnates as long as you're strong enough. The cycle of reincarnation is endless. I'll guarantee that she reincarnates." Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1029 Mystical Destiny Book, Book of Misfortune. Chapter 1029 Mystical Destiny Book, Book of Misfortune. Qin Bahen was extremely excited upon hearing that his mother could reincarnate. Hanling continued, "Your surname will be Han from today onwards." Qin Bahen nodded. "All right. I hate the Qin surname, anyway." At this point, he changed his name to Han Bahen and cultivated under Hanling. To Hanju this was a small matter. In the future, the chosen ones could also do this. He didn't have to nurture them personally. Of course, he still had to do it himself if the creation was extremely abnormal. Hanju was not disappointed. Han Bahen focused on cultivating and rarely went out after coming to the Tao field. In the blink of an eye, after millions of years, Hanju's age increased again. Detected that you are 60 million years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately, and open the ultimate origin world in the chaos. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. The two choices were the same. There was no difference. Hanju would treat it as a fixed gift from the system. He silently chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner, and obtained a great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. Hanju looked at the neighboring Taoist temples. Han Bahen. This kid's cultivation had already reached freedom after 5 million years of cultivation. The spirit chi in the Tao field was richer than anywhere else in the entire chaos. In Hanju's opinion, the progress of Han Bashan's cultivation was still a little slow. Hanling was usually busy cultivating, and only taught him a total of 3 times. It seemed that this was not Han Bashan's fault. In the past, Hanju at least had the system to help. Hanju opened the emails. The recent emails were extremely chaotic. There were all sorts of attacks, and even hidden sect disciples attacked each other. Zhou Fan had fought Li Daokong and was severely injured. Han Tua and Huang Zuantian had also fought, and were both severely injured. Dao Sovereign, and the other 3, had also recently returned to the chaos. Han Yi and Han Yao had fought more than once, and each time, both sides were severely injured. Hanju had no intention of mediating. These disciples had also graduated. Be it sparring or really fighting, he couldn't care less. Hanju's gaze landed on the chaos after reading the emails. He discovered that the chaotic spirit chi had increased greatly. The 7 supreme rules had also increased in size. The 3,000 great Tao had also become heavier. It was precisely because of this that the various factions in the chaos fought even more chaotically, thinking that they were creating providence for the chaos. Even the ultimate god of punishment thought so. Only Hanju knew that this meant that the 9th chaos had become stronger. The thought of the 9th chaos about to become the creator lord made Hanju very nervous. The Tao creator was already extremely terrifying. Who knew how unbelievable the creator lord was? The Tao field's array formation was only at the creator lord level. It was unknown if it could completely block the ninth chaos after he broke through. Hanju suddenly had a bold thought. Should he curse the ninth chaos? The Book of Misfortune was already an ultimate Tao treasure. Who could it not curse? Hanju asked in his mind. Will the ninth chaos scheme against me after he becomes a creator lord? For example, suppressing me. 100 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Yes, what the hell? What a scumbag. That made sense. The chaotic consciousness, and the formless transcendent deity, wouldn't be in such a sorry state if the ninth chaos was really so kind. Will I be discovered if I use the Book of Misfortune to curse the ninth chaos? The ultimate Tao treasure is at the Tao creator level. The ninth chaos can't directly deduce the Book of Misfortune, but it can be inferred. Hanju thought of the Mystical Destiny book next. Use the Mystical Destiny book to change the understanding of all living beings, and make them think that the Dark Forbidden Lord indeed existed. So he couldn't be Hanju before cursing the ninth chaos? That's it. Perfect. Hanju immediately shooed Hanling out, and asked her to teach Han Bahen for a few days. He would preach the Tao to him later. Then he took out the Mystical Destiny book and started to use it. I want all living beings, including the ninth chaos, to think that the Dark Forbidden Lord indeed exists. It has nothing to do with me, Hanju. 1 decillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So much. However, Hanju could still accept it compared to half his lifespan. The first time he used it, his lifespan was not even 1 decillion years. Now he had 12 octodecillion years of lifespan. The lifespan deducted was basically nothing. Hanju chose to continue. The Mystical Destiny book emitted a divine light. The aura still made him palpitate, as expected of an ultimate supreme treasure. After the divine light disappeared, Hanju looked at the cooldown time, and discovered that it had become 100 million years. He would have waited until he was 160 million years old, if he wanted to use it again. Hanju smiled and kept the Mystical Destiny book. Then, he changed it to the Book of Misfortune. It had been a long time since he had cursed someone. He was quite excited. He preferred cursing existences stronger than him compared to cursing the weak. Ninth chaos, are you ready? You can forget about being the first to become a creator lord. Hanju began to curse the ninth chaos. As an ultimate Tao treasure, the Book of Misfortune could already curse all existences. The power of the curse erupted and black light flashed, causing his face to become ghastly and terrifying. He was no longer as holy as before. 5 days later, Hanju's lifespan began to decrease rapidly. He opened his attributes panel and stared at it. As expected of the ninth chaos, his lifespan decreased extremely quickly. 100 million years, a billion years, 10 billion years, 100 billion years, a trillion years. Hanju was immersed in the pleasure of the curse and couldn't extricate himself. As he cursed, he recalled the past. The enemies he had forgotten kept appearing in his mind. He really missed them. In the Taoist temple next door, Han Bahen felt uneasy. He was very nervous at the thought that Hanju was about to preach the Tao. When he first came, although he knew that Hanju was very strong, he didn't expect it to far exceed his imagination. Ever since Han Ling explained the realms and chaos to him, he knew that he had obtained a huge opportunity. Han Ling noticed his uneasiness and smiled. Don't be nervous. My father won't eat you. Turv Han Bahen asked. Ancestor, can you tell me about the progenitor's past? Han Ling smiled and nodded, then told him what she knew. Han Bahen listened very seriously. Han Bahen worshipped Hanju, knowing that the primogenitor was also a mortal in the past, and had risen step by step from the mortal world to controlling the chaos. He suddenly felt that his encounter was nothing. Although his father did not treat him well, he at least raised him. As for his progenitor, he had been abandoned by his parents when he was young and had grown up alone. He had done everything by himself until he created the Han family. Han Bahen was ashamed thinking of his complaints about the ancestor when they first met. He suddenly felt that the progenitor had chosen him not because of his providence, but because he sympathized with him. Han Ling smiled and said after she finished speaking. So you have to cultivate well. Don't let my father down. He gave you your talent before he decided you'd serve me. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1030 Fighting to Become a Fiend Celestial. Chapter 1030 Fighting to Become a Fiend Celestial. When Han Bashan's admiration for him reached an endless stream, Han Ju, who was in the Taoist temple next door, was still cursing the ninth chaos. His lifespan decreased extremely quickly. 100 quadrillion years. 110 quadrillion years. It exceeded the ninth chaos value already. Because of your curse, the ninth chaos Tao heart is in chaos. The rules of the great Tao world have fluctuated. Wasn't the great Tao world of the ninth chaos the chaos? Han Ju looked up. The 3,000 great Tao above the chaos were fluctuating violently. Even the 7 supreme rules were trembling slightly. Who cares? Not enough. Han Ju's eyes turned ruthless. He swore to curse the ninth chaos into something to prevent this fellow from attaining the Creator Lord realm too quickly. 500 quadrillion years. 1 quintillion years. Because of your curse, mental demons appeared in the depths of the ninth chaos Tao heart. The great Tao world has begun to produce mental demons. Not enough. He stared at his attributes panel to prevent himself from cursing too much. In any case, he had already felt the opportunity to break through. He could make up for the origin lifespan he had lost as long as he broke through. 2 quintillion years. Because of your curse, the ninth chaos cultivation fluctuated. Its great Tao world began to shatter. Han Ju immediately stopped. The turbulence in his cultivation could be considered restraining his cultivation progress, right? Han Ju was worried that the chaos would be destroyed if he continued cursing. He put away the Book of Misfortune and looked up. He saw cracks appear at the edge of the chaos. They were dense and looked like a sinister longworm twisting. Not only that, but many evil auras appeared at the bottom of the chaos and surged to condense into strange demons of different sizes. The mental demons. These demons were quite strong. They might really fall into despair if it was the chaos 50 million years ago. However, to the current chaos, it would at most cause a short period of turmoil. Han Ju sent a voice transmission to Han Ling. Soon, she brought Han Bahen into the Taoist temple. Han Bahen knelt down and bowed respectfully upon seeing him. Han Ju didn't say anything else and started to preach the Tao from the Freedom Realm. Round platforms hung under the blue sky and white clouds. More than 100 great Tao divine spirits gathered on the highest platform. The divine punishers were also here. To be precise, all the geniuses of the 10 absolutes were here. Han Huang, who was dressed in golden scales, could not hide his arrogance at all. Not only was he arrogant, but he also exuded domineering pressure. Furthermore, this kid did not hide it. The divine spirits had already noticed it before. However, over the years Han Huang had been ruthless, causing them to not dare to provoke him. Han Huang smiled and said, "I'm fine. Don't worry. Can I prove that I'm a primordial fiend celestial now?" The ultimate god of punishment sent Han Ju a dream 1,000 years after the lecture. As soon as Han Bahen left, Han Ju accepted the dream and explained Han Huang's situation. After hearing it, Han Ju asked the ultimate god of punishment not to dissuade him and let nature take its course. Since his son had this determination, Han Ju would no longer ask Tao Sovereign to take over. Han Ju looked at Tao Sovereign and the others after the dream ended. The 5 of them were very free. They traveled everywhere, as if they wanted to see every corner of the chaos and every scenery. Han Ju looked at the others. Something interesting happened. Other than Han Huang, many people wanted to be the primordial fiend celestial. Zhou Fan, Huang Zuantian, Tao Sovereign, Azure Heaven Mystic, Zhao Shuangquan, and so on. Those arrogant fellows all felt that they were the primordial fiend celestial and could withstand the great karma of ushering the great Tao immeasurable calamity. Han Ju was speechless. In the past, he was a primordial fiend celestial and was afraid that others would find trouble with him. Now he finally understood that there were actually so many people fighting for it. Han Ju smiled and suddenly began to look forward to who could be recognized as the primordial fiend celestial. He did not calculate. There were fewer and fewer unknowns for him now. It was good to leave some suspense. As for danger, he was fearless in the Dao field anyway. Currently only one person could suppress Hanju. The ninth chaos. He would be invincible as long as he surpassed the ninth chaos. Hanju closed his eyes and started cultivating in the mysterious domain. Mist filled the air, and it was extremely dark. Huang Zuantian, Li Daokong, Ancestor Shitian, Shi Dudao, Jing Tiangong, and so on were all leaders of the Life faction. Huang Zuantian scanned everyone and said in a low voice, "We only have one goal recently. Sweep through the northern chaos. I want to be the primordial fiend celestial. I want great providence. This great Tao immeasurable calamity is the beginning of a new era. In the future, the chaos will shatter and become truly endless. Countless great worlds comparable to the chaos will appear. The Life faction also has to have a world, but there will be competition as long as it exists. You should understand, the Calamity Life Controller is like a curse that will always pester us. Although it's our power now, we also have to be wary of it." The leaders of the Life factions agreed. Li Daokong said, "That Han Huang is too powerful, and is on good terms with the Northern Chaos. This is not good. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com." Chapter 1031 Chaotic Legend. Chapter 1031 Chaotic Legend. So what if it's Han Huang? The Eternal Peak might not have been his during the Chaotic Assembly, if not for the Supreme Rules being attacked. Huang Zuantian snorted. He was very depressed as he thought of this. The other leaders supported him. That's right. What's there to be afraid of? Even if Han Huang is the son of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage, it's fine as long as we don't harm his life. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage transcends the rules, and has countless children. Look at Han Tua. How many times has he been between life and death? I've never seen the Divine Might Heavenly Sage make a move. Although Han Huang is strong, he's all alone. That's right. There are so many experts in life. We can crush him with numbers no matter how strong Han Huang is. Ha ha. I'll first send disciples to the Northern Chaos to investigate its foundation. It's said that the origins of that Northern Chaos Holy Lord are mysterious, but he has remarkable abilities. He once fought dozens of great Tao sages alone, and easily won. Huang Zuantian smiled at the leader's words. The chaos would fall into his hands sooner or later, with so many mighty figures. Huang Zuantian said, "Although the Divine Might Heavenly Sage rarely appears, we have to give him face. We can attack Han Huang, but we have to leave him a way out. Although we are strong, we are only in the chaos, and the Divine Might Heavenly Sage is above the chaos." The leaders nodded. Actually, they knew what Han Huang represented even without Huang Zuantian saying it. That was also why the Northern Chaos Holy Lord tried his best to rope Han Huang in. Ancestor Shitian said, "Recently, the Heavenly Court's momentum cannot be underestimated. That Han Yao is very strong. Think of a way to rope him in." Shi Dudao chuckled. "I'll do this. I want to see how strong the recently rising war god of the Heavenly Court is." The other leaders laughed, but no one fought with him. Although Han Yao was strong, he was not in their eyes for the time being. Heavenly Court Numinous Palace. Dao Sovereign, and the other three stood in the hall smiling at the evil Heavenly Emperor. Beside them stood several war gods and literature immortals, including Han Yao. Han Yi and Han Yao stared at each other, not convinced. Smiling, the evil Heavenly Emperor said, "It's so difficult in the chaos now. Why don't you stay in the Heavenly Court for the time being? The Heavenly Peach Banquet is almost upon us." Lao Dan smiled. "All right. How can I miss such a beautiful thing?" He gave Zhao Xianyuan a look. The latter understood and agreed. Dao Sovereign frowned, but he couldn't refute. Jiang Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Han Yi said unhappily, "What's so good about the Heavenly Peach Banquet? I don't like Han Yao. We should leave." Han Yao cursed. "Are you asking for another beating? He defeated opponent. Have you lost to me less often? Cut the crap. Let's go out and fight again." The evil Heavenly Emperor smiled and said, "Stop fighting. You're not tired. I'm tired just from watching. Every time year passes by, he has to fight with Yaoer. He's even more competitive than Huang'er and Tuar back then. I even suspect that you're natural enemies." Han Yao snorted. "He's not worthy." Han Yi looked at the evil heavenly emperor and asked, "Your Majesty, when will my ancestor Han Huang return?" Han Yao mocked, "You think you can fight with ancestor Han Huang?" As Han Yi rose, his background could naturally not be hidden. The two peerless geniuses of the same era were actually from the same race. This was also one of the reasons they did not like each other and would always compare. The evil heavenly emperor could also see through Han Ye's background, so he especially liked his willfulness. He even doted on him more than Han Yao. Every time Han Yi came, he would warmly pull him along. Dao Sovereign said, "All right, Han Yi, you have to give His Majesty face in the heavenly court. His Majesty is the benefactor of your Han family's progenitor." Han Yi wanted to flare up, but he had no choice but to endure when he heard this. Han Yao did not say anything else. He would only lose his composure when facing Han Yi. He was still very polite to others. At this moment, evil heavenly emperor, I am sure Du Dao of life. Today, I specially came to challenge you. Send out the strongest war god under you. Otherwise, I will flatten the numinous palace. An extremely arrogant laugh came from outside the hall. It was like a thunderclap that shook the world. The evil heavenly emperor frowned. Han Yao shouted angrily, "How dare a nobody provoke the heavenly court?" He immediately transformed into a golden rainbow and went out. Dao Sovereign smiled. Life has targeted the heavenly court. His Majesty can be lively again. The evil heavenly emperor shook his head. I'm afraid they're not targeting the heavenly court. He looked outside the hall. Sure, Du Dao. It was really a meeting of old friends. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 5 million years passed. The second chaotic assembly was about to begin. Han Ju didn't plan to go this time. He let the ultimate god of punishment do it alone. Han Ju opened his eyes. He was already close to breaking through. He would definitely be able to break through to the mid-stage Dao creator realm in another million years. Han Ju checked the emails. The content was extremely exciting. The attacks were endless. Li Daokong, Huang Zuantian, Ancestor Shitian, and others were all severely injured by Han Huang. Han Tua and Yi Tian also began to become active and eliminate the devils at the bottom of the chaos. It was worth mentioning that the reincarnated 8th chaos, Zhao Shuangquan, was abnormally active. He defeated even the Universe Sage King. 50 million years of cultivation had already allowed him to attain the Great Dao Supreme Realm and reach the top echelon of the chaos. The nine-headed divine spirit had just tempered his divine body not long ago. He was preaching everywhere and recruiting troops. How lively! Han Ju smiled, especially since Han Huang's performance didn't disappoint him. How could the primordial fiend celestial not be invincible with its increasing providence? Han Ju looked at the chaos and discovered that Han Huang's momentum was extremely prosperous. He defeated the entire life faction alone and shocked the chaos. The primordial fiend celestial began to land on his head. Han Ju sent a dream to Huang Zuantian after reading the emails. In the dream, Huang Zuantian asked him if he wanted an opportunity as usual. After confirming his identity, he let down his guard. Master, are you here about me and Han Huang? Huang Zuantian asked awkwardly inside. The battle a million years ago was a humiliation to the life faction. They used their own strength to send Han Huang to the altar and shook the world, becoming a legend on the path of cultivation. Han Ju said, I'm here for you. How are you? Huang Zuantian was touched. The life faction has already stopped expanding and is resting. I'm also cultivating and want to create the Great Dao world. He continued after hesitating for a moment. Primordial Origin told me that 2 Great Dao worlds that are not inferior to the chaos are approaching. They want to collide with the chaos and create an unprecedented era. Is this true? Primordial Origin? TSK. Panga's last opponent among the 3,000 Fiend Celestials, formed by the Primordial Chaos Fiend Celestial, could actually spy on the Great Dao world? Han Ju was interested in Primordial Origin. Back then, Primordial Origin could have become the first chaotic life form to transform into a Primordial Fiend Celestial. However, Primordial Origin was stuck because Han Ju had become a Primordial Fiend Celestial in advance. In the end, he fused with Huang Zuantian and focused on him. are the two great Tao worlds, immeasurable destruction, venerable Shirtian, and the most mysterious Tao creator about to attack? That's not right. Doesn't the immeasurable destruction, venerable Shirtian, want to personally destroy the chaos? Hanju hesitated. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Come. Chapter 1032 Shirtian. Chapter 1032 Shirtian. Regardless of whether it's true or not, raising my cultivation level is the most important. The chaos won't die yet, Hanju said softly and calmly. Huang Zuantian thought of many things. 50 million years ago, the mysterious existence of the consciousnessless great Tao world attacked the chaos and was quickly suppressed. How many unimaginable transcendent existences were hidden above the chaos? ESWR Hanju and Huang Zuantian chatted for a while before removing the dream. Opening his eyes, Hanju looked at Han Bahen of the Taoist temple next door. He had already become a great Tao sage. Hanju said, Linger, I gave Han Bahen the authority to enter the simulation trial, but you have to teach him. Han Ling opened her eyes and immediately went to do it. Hanju looked at the bottom of the chaos. The evil devils formed by the 9th chaos mental demon had already dispersed and increased wantonly. The great Tao divine spirits couldn't kill them all. Han Tua, Etian, and the other divine punishers had also gone to eliminate the devils. The situation was becoming more and more serious. The chaotic assembly was in another 200,000 years. It was estimated that one of the missions would be to eliminate devils. Hanju created a clone. He would bring his Tao companion and disciples to the chaotic assembly when the time came. His main body would continue cultivating. He entered seclusion again after doing all of this. On the other side, Han Bahen began to spar with Han Ling in the simulation trial. Han Ling deliberately sparred with him first. Han Bahen was very excited. He could finally fight after cultivating for so long. He also wanted to test ancestor Han Ling's strength. Then, Han Bahen woke up and fearfully looked at Han Ling. He did not expect the gentle-looking ancestor Han Ling to be so terrifying in battle. She was like a completely different person. Han Ling smiled and said, Compared to me, you're still far inferior. However, you can spar with others. The simulation trial contains all living beings. You can choose anyone to spar with regardless of realm. Han Bahen took a deep breath and nodded. Then he entered the simulation trial and began to fight other opponents. He was looking for a great Tao sage. He had no intention of torturing anyone below the great Tao sage realm. Soon he was immersed. Several days later, he established absolute confidence. The reason ancestor Han Ling could defeat him was definitely that her cultivation realm was far superior to his. He was invincible among those of the same realm. He suddenly had a bold thought. How strong was the progenitor Hanju? He immediately chose to challenge him. At the bottom of the chaos, 10 Absolute City became lively again due to the second chaotic assembly's arrival. Continuous booms rang outside the city as the mighty figures fought the evil devils. For millions of years, the bottom of the chaos had been filled with mysterious evil devils. These evil devils were extremely strong and liked to destroy and kill. Many geniuses and mighty figures had fallen under their claws. Hanju's clone brought his trusted aides over. As usual, the disciples of the hidden sect and the heavenly Tao gathered together. Tao Sovereign and the other three also came. Many people had not seen each other for tens of millions of years and were exchanging pleasantries and asking about the past. The atmosphere was lively. Although the disciples of the hidden sect had always been on their own, their relationship had not been sorted out because of the myriad worlds projection. They would only stop when necessary and never kill, even if there were conflicts. Of course, the main reason they could be harmonious was that Hanju could suppress them. Han Qing'e asked after looking around, Where's my second brother? Etian smiled. Your second brother is not interested in this assembly. He's already at the eternal peak and can't participate anymore. He's currently in the south of the chaos preparing to challenge an ancient ferocious beast. That ferocious beast has existed since the birth of the chaos and contains the power to destroy space and time. It's hidden between the past and the future not the present. Han Qing'er curled her lips, not understanding why her second brother was so warlike. Her gaze landed on Han Yao and Han Yi. At this moment, the two of them surrounded Han Yunjin and met their ancestor. Although many geniuses appeared in the Han family, very few were qualified to participate in the chaotic assembly. Han Yunjin and Han Yu had brought a few people, but they were not great Tao sages. Most of them had not even reached the freedom realm, but Han Yao and Han Yi were true great Tao sages. At this moment, Han Ling walked over with Han Bahen, following behind him. Han Bahen was majestic like a human-shaped ferocious beast, attracting everyone's attention. Han Yunjin was moved when he saw him. This was his bloodline. Han Ling immediately introduced him to everyone. The personal disciples surrounded him. The children who could cultivate beside Han Ju must have very strong potential. Han Yao and Han Yi frowned when they saw Han Bahen. Where did this kid come from? On the other side, Han Ju's clone was discussing the details of this chaotic assembly with the ultimate god of punishment. Because of the successful outcome of the first chaotic assembly, the second chaotic assembly was even more lively. Many geniuses had appeared in the chaos in the past 50 million years. It could be said that each generation surpassed the last. Many ancient existences also came out of seclusion to join in the fun. This chaotic assembly would be even smoother without the schemes of the number one deity of the consciousnessless Great Tao world. Blank domain. The Holy Mother of Order and Han Huang stood side by side. The Holy Mother of Order was majestic. Han Huang looked tiny as he stood beside her, but his aura was stronger. The two divine spirits looked in the same direction, following their gaze. A black dot appeared in the depths of the blank domain and slowly expanded. It was a great Tao world that was not inferior to the vastness of the chaos. The Holy Mother of Order said, "Do you see? This will be the prelude to the endless era. The two great Tao worlds will collide and fuse. The two giants and geniuses will fight. Those ambitious people will fight for benefits, and will also begin the great Tao immeasurable calamity." Han Huang snorted. "So be it. I'll represent the chaos to resist all intruders." The Holy Mother of Order smiled. This great Tao world's owner is called Shirtian. His great Tao world has existed the longest after the chaos. Is that the strongest great Tao world? No, a stronger great Tao world is on the way. It will appear in a few 100 million years. Holy Mother, why do I feel that you know more than the ultimate god of punishment? What kind of existence are you? Although the Holy Mother of Order was not as powerful as him, she always exuded an unfathomable aura. The Holy Mother of Order smiled. I'm the Order of the Chaos. Han Huang, I believe that you are the primordial fiend celestial. You'll definitely create the primordial chaos. But you better wait until the endless era arrives. Otherwise, the primordial chaos power will devour the chaos, just like how the chaos replaced the primordial chaos. It will endanger all living beings in the chaos and the heavenly Tao. Han Huang was silent. At this moment, he suddenly looked up and saw a black light shooting over from afar. He raised his hand and grabbed it, catching a ring between his two fingers. This ring was like a crescent moon, and was missing a piece, preventing it from forming a complete circle. Han Huang frowned and asked, "What is this?" The Holy Mother of Order said, "One of Shirtian's rings. He's a warlike person. This ring can help you create a great Tao world, and increase your comprehension and creativity. However, as you die, it will absorb your power of creation, and help that warlike person. He's declaring war on you. Either you die and he gets your power of creation, or he dies and you get his power of creation." Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1033 Yin-Yang Purity Nirvana Deity. Chapter 1033 Yin-Yang Purity Nirvana Deity. The corners of the Holy Mother of Order's mouth curled up as she faced Han Huang's confidence. She didn't say anything else. The two divine spirits continued to watch and left after a long time. The news of Shirtian's arrival spread after the chaotic assembly ended. The second chaotic assembly was extremely exciting. The one who obtained the eternal peak was the heavenly Tao's Zhao Shuangquan. The 10 absolute geniuses were Huang Zuantian, Tao Sovereign, Han Tua Formless World, Central Region's Han Emperor, defying divine Tao, Etian, Han Yi and Han Yao. Several of the previous 10 absolutes did not participate, such as Jiang Juesher, Morong Qi, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial, and so on. Many new faces also appeared among the 100 sovereigns, 1,000 lords and 10,000 strong. Time passed quickly. Hanju's clone brought his personal disciples back, while his main body was still cultivating. 1,000,000 years after the chaotic assembly ended, Hanju finally broke through. Mid-stage Tao Creator. Creation dharmic powers began to erupt majestically. The ultimate origin world also expanded and countless stars were born. The ultimate origin world would soon reach the scale of the chaos at this speed. Hanju checked his attributes panel as he consolidated his cultivation. Name: Hanju. Lifespan: 66,281,037/1, 019, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 999, 99,999,999. Race: Ultimate Origin Fiend Celestial Immeasurable Emperor. Cultivation: Mid-stage Tao Creator Perfect Sage. Technique: Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering Technique. Great Tao of Life and Death, Great Tao of Karma, Great Tao of Extreme Origin. Constitution: Extreme Tao Ultimate Origin Body. As expected of a Tao Creator, this breakthrough directly increased his lifespan by 8 digits. Amazing! Hanju was happy and continued to consolidate his cultivation. 500,000 years later, Hanju's cultivation completely stabilized. However, he felt a powerful force that wanted to drag the ultimate origin world out of the depths of his soul. Hanju frowned. The more he cultivated, the stronger this power became. No wonder the chaos could no longer expand. Could it be that this power came from the blank domain and imprisoned the development of the chaos? If that was the case, Hanju could only stop cultivating. Otherwise, the ultimate origin world would jump out and squeeze the chaos. This would definitely anger the 9th chaos. There was another way, which was to place the ultimate origin world in the blank domain. However, doing so would also expose the ultimate origin world. He had no choice. Hanju couldn't stop cultivating, so he could only head to the blank domain. With that thought, he created a clone and headed to the blank domain. He first made the clone spread the transcendent rule of the ultimate origin world, and divided it into countless parts, leaving more paths of survival for himself. Hanju traveled the blank domain as he spread the transcendent rule. Great Tao Supreme experts didn't dare to enter the blank domain, because they would lose their way. However, a Tao Creator was different. Even if he couldn't spy on the entire blank domain, finding the chaos was still as easy as flipping his palm. The blank domain was as lonely and cold as ever. Even great Tao sages couldn't enter this place. The blank domain was naturally lonely. Hanju was suddenly curious. I want to know if the blank domain will give birth to living beings. 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? The value of a Tao Creator. Continue. Not for the time being. Not for the time being. Then, there was a possibility in the future. Hanju clicked his tongue in wonder. Another period of time passed. He saw a great Tao world floating towards the chaos. It was very fast, but it still required hundreds of millions of years to reach the distance to the chaos. His divine sense swept into the great Tao world. Hanju was surprised. The number of living beings in this great Tao world was far inferior to the chaos, but the cultivation of the mighty figures was very strong. There were actually no fewer living beings above the zenith heaven realm than below. The number of freedom sages and great Tao supremes even exceeded the chaos. However, the great Tao sages were inferior to their numbers in the chaos, because the chaos had been rising for the past 50 million years. There was no 9-headed divine spirit deliberately suppressing them. He noticed Shurtian when he first left the chaos. Now he saw another great Tao world. Were these the two great Tao worlds that Primordial Origin had mentioned? Primordial Origin was powerful? Could he spy so far from the chaos? Or was there someone behind him? Hanju asked in his mind. I want to know who created this great Tao world. 5 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? So high. It was even stronger than immeasurable destruction, Venerable Shirtion. Continue. A message appeared in front of him. Yin-Yang Purity Nirvana Deity. Mid-stage Tao Creator. Chaotic Deity. Blank Guardian. Ancestor of Terror. Transcends the chaos and exists in eternal space-time. Amazing. Hanju currently knew of 5 Tao creators. From strong to weak. They were the 9th chaos. The Yin-Yang Purity Nirvana Deity. Immeasurable Destruction Venerable Shirtion. The Formless Transcendent Deity. And the Chaotic Consciousness. The weaker they were, the more they liked to stay in the chaos, because they had nothing to do. For example, the Yin-Yang Purity Nirvana Deity and Immeasurable Destruction Venerable Shirtion were busy cultivating and had no time to interfere in the chaos. Hanju sighed and continued to leave the chaos. He wanted to leave and find a place to release the ultimate origin world. Hanju's main body opened his eyes as his clone swam in the blank domain. He began the simulation trial to test his strength. He challenged 1,000 formless transcendent deities. Hanju went all out and easily won. Then, he increased the number to 10,000. Fight 10,000 formless transcendent deities. After one simulation trial after another, Hanju could only fight 20,000 formless transcendent deities in the end. This was already very strong. At least, Hanju was satisfied. The Tao creator was very strong. Hanju looked at Hanling. Hanling's emperor soldiers were very strong before the Tao creator realm. But it was unknown if they could continue to show their might after reaching the Tao creator realm. It was not difficult for a Tao creator to split into countless cultivation clones like him to fight. What was difficult was the Tao creator's creation. For example, Hanju. It was not difficult for him to create countless clones, but it was impossible for all his clones to use the ultimate origin soul oblivion. The 2 formless transcendent deities Hanju challenged could both use their mystical powers. According to what he knew, Hanling's emperor soldiers could at most gather in array formations. Of course, perhaps Hanling's emperor soldiers would transform after she really became a Tao creator. After ending the simulation trial, Hanju prepared to continue cultivating when he suddenly saw a huge battle at the edge of the chaos. One of them was Han Huang. The one fighting him was not a chaotic life form. His aura should be from Shirtion. They were both great Tao supremes, and the battle pressure was very strong. The entire chaos would probably be affected, if not for the great Tao divine spirits protecting space and time. Shirtion was about to collide with the chaos. At that time, the living beings of the 2 great Tao worlds would definitely come into contact. Shirtion's mighty figure was the first to attack. He wanted to show his mystical power, but he was stopped by Han Huang. Hanju felt bored after watching for a while. Small fights. At the same time, more and more mighty figures in the chaos rushed to the battlefield. Han Huang appeared very strong, and was completely playing with the other party. He deliberately did not kill the other party to increase the chaos prestige. The great Tao divine spirits clapped in joy. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1034 70 million years old. Creating the ultimate origin. Chapter 1034 70 million years old. Creating the ultimate origin. Han Huang stood proudly in the dilapidated void. Primordial chi wrapped around his body like a hurricane that stirred the river of time. With the domineering power to destroy space and time, he looked down at a mighty figure in a sorry state. This mighty figure wore the black armor of a swanni. His cloak was like flames and fluttered wantonly. His long hair emitted the luster of the great Tao. He glared at the high and mighty Han Huang. The mocking laughter coming from all directions made him want to explode. I won't kill you today. Scram back and tell Shirtion's cultivators that if they come to the chaos in the future, they have to stay with me. Otherwise I, Han Huang, will definitely flatten Shirtion. Han Huang said disdainfully and waved his palm. Divine might, great heaven palm. The domineering palm force directly sent the black-armored mighty figure out of the chaos. The mighty figures watching the battle cheered. Then, they flew in front of Han Huang and began to praise him. However, a mighty figure suddenly said something inappropriate. Han Huang, Shi Tian isn't here yet, but you're already so strong. You'll definitely anger Shi Tian. Why do this? Han Huang glanced at him, and the other mighty figures quietened down. The atmosphere became solemn. The mighty figure was fearless and looked at Han Huang openly. Han Huang snorted and disappeared. The mighty figures heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Han Huang was not that ruthless to his own people. Han Huang had vaguely become the #1 person in the Great Tao Supreme Realm, ever since he suppressed the Life faction alone. Without the divine might heavenly sage appearing, it was very difficult to find an existence comparable to him in the chaos. The mighty figures also left one after another. The news of this battle quickly spread. All sorts of information about Shi Tian spread in the chaos, scattering the Second Chaotic Assembly's popularity. Even the reputation of the Eternal Peak's Zhao Shuangquan decreased, making him extremely unhappy with Shi Tian. 1,000,000 years later, Shi Tian collided with the chaos. The entire chaotic space rippled, as if the water surface was fluctuating. The 3,000 Great Tao sounded at the same time, and strange phenomena appeared in the myriad worlds. Shi Tian wasn't much smaller than the chaos. The void was the same as the chaos. After the two Great Tao worlds collided, it was as if the chaos suddenly doubled in size. The mighty figures of the two worlds began to observe each other with their divine sense. Han Ju was also alarmed out of seclusion, but he only took a look and then resumed cultivation. Shi Tian was very strong, but it was impossible for him to overturn the chaos. Thus, he naturally couldn't be bothered. After Shi Tian and the chaos fused, the two Great Tao worlds did not disturb each other for 10,000 years. However, as low-level cultivators explored the void and involved each other's Great Tao world, the two worlds broke the silence and began to negotiate. As the leader of the divine spirits, the ultimate god of punishment visited the leader of the divine spirits of Shi Tian. It was unknown what agreement the two sides had reached. In the following period of time, the mighty figures of the two worlds began to enter each other's Great Tao world one after another. As time passed, conflict erupted. The chaos of the chaos began to affect Shi Tian. More and more mighty figures headed to Shi Tian and wanted to occupy territory. Shi Tian overlords also touched the chaos. The leaders of the divine spirits of both sides never appeared, thus tacitly agreeing to the competition. Time passed quickly. More than 2,000,000 years later, the living beings of the chaos were already used to Shi Tian's existence. It was the same for Shi Tian's life forms. Han Ju opened his eyes and frowned. Detected that you are 70,000,000 years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately, and head to the blank domain to open the ultimate origin world. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. It's time. Han Ju had been waiting for the reward to appear. He chose the first option, and quickly jumped to the location of the blank domain clone, to release the ultimate origin world. You chose to go to the blank domain to open the ultimate origin world, and obtained a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. Han Ju smiled. The ultimate origin world quickly expanded, and covered the nearby blank domain, after it was released. It was as if the darkness had suddenly devoured the paleness. The endless galaxy expanded from a small size, like a flower blooming in hell. It was beautiful and dazzling. Soon, the ultimate origin world returned to its original size, comparable to the chaos. A powerful force began to drag the ultimate origin world towards the chaos the moment it landed in the blank domain. Han Ju had already expected this, so he deliberately flew extremely far. At this speed, it would take at least billions of years to hit the chaos. Hanju directly arranged for his clone to enter the ultimate origin world to prevent any Dao creators from attacking. Oh, I didn't expect a sixth Dao creator to quietly be born in the chaos. A voice suddenly sounded, resounding through the blank domain. It was like the heavenly might, vast and boundless. Hanju's main body activated all his Dharma treasures and sighed slightly. He did not expect it to come so quickly. He appeared at the blank domain above the ultimate origin world, and his gaze landed in a direction. He saw a ball of black aura sweep over with unstoppable force. It was actually half the size of the ultimate origin world. The other party came menacingly, clearly wanting to compete with him. Hanju didn't stand on ceremony. He was new here, and could only show his strength to make the other party understand the rules. His eyes narrowed. The ultimate origin heaven seal suddenly appeared in front of the ball of black aura, and suddenly expanded. In an instant, it became larger than the entire ultimate origin world, and forcefully stopped the other party. Hanju used the simulation trial to detect the other party. Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian. Early stage Dao creator, chaotic deity, first chaos inheritor, ninth chaos personal disciple. How dare a mere early stage Dao creator act recklessly? The black aura exploded and transformed into a trillion feet tall mighty god. It was the immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian. He wore a flaming black robe, and stepped on two sinister black dragons. On his shoulders squatted two strange bird spirits that looked like eagles. He had a face that looked like a woman's, and he carried a strange smile. Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian looked like a human. He had a dignified expression, and a smaller ugly face between his eyebrows. It was like a ghost, sinister and ferocious. What a terrifying killing intent. This was the first time Hanju encountered such killing intent. Hanju, a chaotic fiend celestial. You became a Dao creator before turning 100 million years old. Tell me, what's your relationship with the ninth chaos? Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian stared at Hanju, and asked coldly. Boundless killing intent centered on him, and turned invisible and tangible, forming a blood-colored color. It covered this blank domain, and also drowned the ultimate origin world. Hanju said calmly, "Are you declaring war on me?" Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian laughed. How arrogant. That's right. The power of a Dao creator is enough to make people lose themselves. Junior, do you really think you're already invincible? Hanju condensed the ultimate origin soul oblivion, and 7 blades of divine punishment appeared around him. He replied calmly, "Invincibility is still far away, but it's more than enough to protect myself." The atmosphere was extremely tense. The auras of the two Dao creators rose steadily, causing the surrounding domain to begin tearing immeasurable destruction. Venerable Shirtian narrowed his eyes. He was secretly shocked. Why is this junior's aura so powerful? Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian felt that it was strange. It was impossible for anyone to become a Dao creator in 100 million years. Furthermore, it was in the chaos, and was not suppressed by the ninth chaos. He thought of some things that the ninth chaos had told him about the past, and his expression suddenly changed. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1035 Creating a Race. Chapter 1035 Creating a Race. Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian stared at Hanju and said, I see. No wonder you're so confident. A Dao creator can't kill another Dao creator. In that case, we'll see whose great Dao world can laugh until the end. With that immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian vanished into thin air. The blood color that covered this blank domain also vanished. Hanju didn't know what this fellow thought of, but he didn't care. In any case, he didn't care about immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtian. Shirtian's immeasurable destruction Venerable has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred points. 3 stars. Hanju smiled and jumped back into the chaos, returning to the Taoist temple of the third Dao field. Hanling opened his eyes and asked, Father, where did you go earlier? Hanju replied, I placed my great Dao world outside the chaos. Hanling was moved and hurriedly asked, Why? Didn't you say that it was very dangerous? Hanju didn't hide anything and told her the truth. Han Ling muttered. Is that the power of chaos? It's trying to absorb other great Tao worlds. It seems that the difference in strength between the great Tao worlds is greater than I imagined. Hanju smiled. That's right. The chaos will change drastically in the future. Let's wait and see. Han Ling nodded and left. The chance that she had gone to spar with Han Bahen was high. Hanju took out the 9 primordial fragments and fell into deep thought. Primordial chaos, great creation. It can create cultivation techniques, create worlds, create races, and create everything. He didn't lack cultivation techniques and mystical powers now. There was no need to use them to strengthen himself. Thus he thought of the ultimate origin world. Immeasurable destruction Venerable Shirtion had already targeted the ultimate origin world and wanted to compare it with his own great Tao world. He had to increase his great Tao world strength. Although there were more than 2,900 chaotic fiend celestials in the ultimate origin world, their growth time was inferior to Shirtion's after all. Furthermore, other than the chaotic fiend celestials, most of the ultimate origin life forms were still being nurtured. There were no very powerful races for the time being. He might as well use the primordial chaos great creation to create a race. Hanju felt that it was feasible. He immediately fused the 9 primordial fragments. He began to imagine his race. The 9 primordial fragments fused and emitted a dazzling purple light. On the other side, in the Taoist temple next door, Han Bahen waved his hand and said, Ancestor, I'm not going. I'm really not going. What's so fun about the simulation trial? I'm not interested. Han Ling frowned. Why? Weren't you obsessed before? Han Bahen muttered. It was just for a moment. Bored. Han Ling snorted coldly and left. She wanted to enter Hanju's Taoist temple but was blocked. She couldn't open the door no matter what she did. Guessing that her father might have something on, she went to chat with the others. In the long years, it was also a good thing to occasionally take the time to relax. It could promote one's Tao heart to a certain extent. Several years later, Han Ling returned to the Taoist temple. The race created by Hanju, using the primordial chaos great creation, had yet to be successfully nurtured, and was placed in the depths of his soul. Han Ling did not ask what he was doing. Her father was always very mysterious. She couldn't see through him, even though her cultivation level had already reached the limit of the chaos. Hanju didn't cultivate, but read the emails. Your disciple Tao Sovereign was attacked by cultivators from Shirtianix 109287663. Your disciple Zhao Xianyuan. Your son Han Tua stepped through the void and obtained a Shirtion's treasure. He obtained the providence of Shirtion. Your descendant Han Yao used the Blood Soul Formation Army, and his cultivation increased greatly. Your good friend Divine Robe Taoist was attacked by cultivators from Shirtion, X8022. Your good friend Panga was attacked by cultivators from Shirtion, X62033. Your disciple Ji Xianxian has stepped into the river of time. Your disciple Yang Tiandong was attacked by the god of the netherworld and was severely injured. TSK was a full-scale battle between the chaos and Shirtion? How interesting. Hanju looked at Han Ling beside him and discovered that she was also looking at the chaos. Hanju visited Han Yao in his dreams. Han Yao was very excited to see him. Back then, when he first became an adult, he had cultivated in front of Hanju for 10,000 years and had always treated him as the person he respected the most. After some pleasantries, Hanju explained his intentions. Come back. Prepare to assist your ancestor Han Ling. Han Yao was first stunned, then immediately agreed. Hanju had already secretly told him about this plan. But after so many years, he had already dominated an area. He was naturally unhappy to submit to Han Ling, but he didn't dare to disobey the progenitor. Hanju ended the dream and visited Han Yi next. Han Yi was extremely excited to see him. He would never forget his childhood master. Even after later learning that his master was the progenitor, he always treated Hanju as his master and not the progenitor. However, he didn't find a chance to talk to Hanju during the chaotic assembly. Hanju asked him about his recent encounters. Han Yi didn't hide anything from him. He was still very excited after talking for most of the day. Hanju smiled and said, Looks like Dao Sovereign and the others take good care of you. Tell them later that I asked them to come back when they're free. Han Yi nodded. Hanju added, leave them and come back. Help your ancestor Han Ling achieve great things. Han Yi was stunned. Assist Han Ling? Unlike Han Yao, he was straightforward. He asked seriously, progenitor why? Can she be stronger than me? Hanju smiled. Spar with her after you return. This will be your greatest opportunity. The Great Dao Supreme Realm is your limit if you continue following Dao Sovereign and the others. This will be your only chance if you want to surpass the Great Dao Supreme Realm. This opportunity will far exceed your imagination. Han Yi was silent. He believed that Hanju wouldn't lie to him. He couldn't help but recall Han Ling back then, that fierce woman. In the end, Han Yi agreed and decided to bid farewell to Dao Sovereign and the others. Hanju told him the location of the universe of stars. The dream shattered. Hanju opened his eyes and looked at his daughter. Linger, do you want to go out with me? Stunned, Han Ling asked. Why are we going out? Hanju said meaningfully. You've been observing the chaos all these years. Your cultivation has already reached the limit. Your great Dao world will constantly evolve on its own. Seclusion is not enough if you want to reach a higher level. You already have a plan. Why hide it from me? Han Ling took a deep breath and smiled. A father is a father. You can guess what your daughter wants to do. Tell me your plan. My great Dao world was created too late. I'll be weaker than the other great Dao worlds, even if the endless era arrives. I plan to recruit geniuses in the chaos. My great Dao world will have a certain foundation when the endless era arrives then. In addition, I guess that the endless era will be an unprecedented era of competition. You'll have no choice but to fight if you want to occupy a place and not be devoured. Han Ling spoke extremely seriously, completely different from her usual self. Hanju felt that it made sense. Even his great Dao world couldn't hide in the Dao field. He had to go out, let alone the others. Hanju said, Han Yi, Han Yao, and Han Bahen will be your subordinates. Use them well. Han Ling smiled. Will they listen to me? Han Bahen is fine, but the other two? Subdue them with your strength. Fight them in the simulation trial. Whoever wins will be the leader. Will this hurt their self-esteem? Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1036 Ultimate Origin Soul Race, Creation Emperor Court. Chapter 1036 Ultimate Origin Soul Race. Creation Emperor Court. Han Yi and Han Yao descended into the universe of stars in the next 10,000 years. Hanju moved them into the third Dao field. The two of them didn't like each other, but they didn't dare to act recklessly in front of him. Hanju called Han Bahen over and gathered in the Taoist temple. Han Yao and Han Yi already knew Han Bahen. They nodded slightly at him, and then looked at Han Ling. They were all proud and arrogant people, and were naturally unwilling to serve her. Hanju said, You'll enter the simulation trial first. Han Yao, Han Yi, Han Bahen, the three of you will fight Han Ling. You don't have to serve her as long as you defeat her. The three of them were stunned and looked at each other. Han Yi clenched his fists. There's no need to join forces. I alone am enough. Hanju couldn't be bothered to say anything else. He directly pulled the four of them into the simulation trial, and let them fight. The four of them closed their eyes. Not long after, Han Yi and the other two were moved. As time passed, their expressions became uglier. On the other hand, Han Ling was still calm. Another period of time passed. Han Yi, Han Yao, and Han Bahen trembled. The simulation ended. The four of them opened their eyes. Han Yi and Han Yao looked at Han Ling in disbelief. Han Bahen was already used to it and smiled helplessly. I still can't run away from it. Han Bashan's gaze landed on Hanju. He would never forget the scene when he faced him. The terrifying 7 mysterious blades of light, the pressure, the pain. Han Bahen was terrified just thinking about it. Han Ling smiled and asked, Are you willing to submit to me and serve me? Han Yao was silent. Han Yi snorted. I admit defeat. He immediately knelt down and cupped his fists. Han Yao followed helplessly, and so did Han Bahen. Hanju said, Han Yi is the ultimate killing star. Han Yao is the conquest heavenly star. Han Bahen is the ultimate gravity star. and Han Ling's great creation is the primordial emperor star. Primordial emperor star. Han Yi and Han Yao were moved. Han Yao couldn't help but ask, could ancestor Han Ling be the primordial fiend celestial? The legend of the primordial fiend celestial spread in the chaos. The reason why the various overlords fought for supremacy was to become a primordial fiend celestial. Han Ju said, no. The primordial fiend celestial is your ancestor Han Huang. My great Tao world contains countless stars. Your great creation is formed by me using the power of the stars. The four of them looked at him in surprise. Even Han Ling was surprised. She had long guessed that her father could give his juniors talents. She didn't expect it to be true. Han Yao and Han Yi thought deeper. So their greatest reliance was given to them by their progenitor. The killing star, heavenly star, and gravity star will assist the emperor star and achieve dominance. Han Ju smiled. He knew that these words would show that he was biased towards Han Ling. But so what? Han Yao and the other two did not feel wronged. That was how it should be. Han Yi asked, since ancestor Han Huang is a primordial fiend celestial, what do you think we can do by assisting ancestor Han Ling? Han Ju smiled and said, follow her and she will give you an answer sooner or later. The primordial fiend celestial is only a potential and doesn't represent the strongest. Next, I will preach the Tao to you as a farewell gift. He directly began to preach the Tao. The Tao voice pulled the four of them into a state of enlightenment. Even Han Ling couldn't react in time. Thousands of years later, Han Ling and the other three left the Tao field and began to travel the chaos. Han Ju looked at the empty Taoist temple and suddenly felt uncomfortable. His daughter, who had accompanied him for tens of millions of years, had finally left. Han Ju's eyes narrowed. Figures appeared in the Taoist temple. They were all naked young men and women. They were the race he had created with the primordial chaos great creation. From now on, you are the ultimate origin soul race, Han Ju said. A line of words appeared in front of him as soon as he finished speaking. Ultimate origin soul race, created by the primordial chaos great creation. It contains the creation of the ultimate origin world. It will be undying and indestructible in the ultimate origin world. It can control the 3,000 great Tao of the ultimate origin world. There were currently 18 ultimate origin soul race members. Their potential was considered top-notch in the ultimate origin world. They were not inferior to those chaotic fiend celestials. Most importantly, they could control the 3,000 great Tao and turn the rules into their divine power. Han Ju began to teach them cultivation techniques. 1,000 years later, he sent the ultimate origin soul race to the ultimate origin world. It only took him a few breaths of time to return. Han Ju took out the Book of Misfortune and the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone as he sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus again. Fusion upgrade. Warning. Ultimate Supreme Treasure cannot recognize a master. Once the upgrade is successful, it will sever the restriction mark on you. Han Ju hesitated. Forget it. The Book of Misfortune was too strong. He was afraid that something would happen. In any case, the Book of Misfortune was already useful enough. He should keep the Heavenly Tao Spirit Stone. Han Ju put it away. Then, he began to curse the ninth chaos. He couldn't let the ninth chaos become a creator lord so soon. 5 days later, his lifespan began to decrease. He cursed with all his might. Countless evil devils appeared at the bottom when the edge of the chaos shattered again. He stopped, and the cultivation of the ninth chaos shook again. He was a little injured after 2 quadrillion years of his lifespan were deducted. He would cultivate in seclusion first. He had already delayed for a period of time. He would use the creation heavens chosen in the future. In the mysterious domain, Huang Zuantian sat on an altar. Around the altar stood stone statues with strange postures that looked like humans and demons. A figure appeared behind Huang Zuantian and knelt down. Life Lord, a major force has recently risen in the chaos. They've 3 great Tao Supremes who are extremely powerful. According to the information, 2 of them are among the 10 absolute prodigies, Han Yi and Han Yao. Huang Zuantian opened his eyes and frowned. Who's the leader? I'm not sure. I've only found out a name. What's his name? Emperor. Emperor? Huang Zuantian tried to deduce, but it failed since he just had the name Emperor. Huang Zuantian instructed. What's the other party's intention? I'm not sure. Emperor created the Creation Emperor Court and is wantonly recruiting cultivators with outstanding potential. They forcefully occupied a domain and even obtained ownership of 5 great Dao. They said that they welcome mighty figures from all over to challenge them. Huang Zuantian fell into deep thought. There were many new factions, but he had to give further thought since this matter involved Han Yi and Han Yao. Could it be Master's arrangement? Very likely. What did Master want to do? Huang Zuantian said. You can leave. Send someone to pay close attention to the Creation Emperor Court. Yes, the figure vanished. Huang Zuantian began to cast a spell. A figure surged out of his body. It was Primordial Origin. Primordial Origin was only a soul body and did not reveal its face. Huang Zuantian, my premonition is becoming stronger. You have to be prepared. Primordial Origin said in a low voice, his tone filled with uneasiness. Huang Zuantian asked, how should we prepare? Primordial Origin said, copy me and transform into a primordial fiend celestial. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1037 Dao Sovereign's Ambition. Chapter 1037 Dao Sovereign's Ambition. Not only did the rise of the Creation Emperor Court attract life's attention, but its reputation also spread to Shirtian. After millions of years, the chaos in Shirtian had already established a preliminary fusion. The providence of the two worlds was fusing, led by the chaos. Heavenly Court, Numinous Palace. The immortal gods gathered and discussed the Creation Emperor Court. Divine General Han Yao betrayed the Heavenly Court. Who is this emperor he's assisting? The Creation Emperor Court is very powerful. Han Yao, Han Yi and Han Bahen are all surnamed Han. Could the Divine Emperor really be the Divine Might Heavenly Sage? Probably not. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage is already above the chaos. What is he doing? His 2 sons are both Divine Punishers. Perhaps the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's children are gathering to dominate the chaos? After all, they will naturally be ambitious with such a powerful backing. The Black General looked at the evil Heavenly Emperor and discovered that he was smiling mysteriously. Done, the evil Heavenly Emperor slowly said, causing the immortals in the hall to quiet down. Under the lead of Han Huang, Azure Heaven Mystic, Zhao Shuangquan, Han Yao, and other peerless geniuses, the current Heavenly Court had a deep foundation. Endless geniuses and many experts had already grown up. They controlled 3 domains of the chaos and could be considered a transcendent force. The evil Heavenly Emperor had already become a great Dao sage. The evil Heavenly Emperor said, don't worry about the Creation Emperor Court. I'm good friends with the Heavenly Sage. I borrowed Han Yao from him. He contributed to the Heavenly Court and is fighting for himself now. There's no need to blame him. If you encounter him in the chaos in the future, you can also bow. The immortals could only agree. An old immortal stood up and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, we have lost contact with the heavenly soldiers we sent to Shirtian. I'm afraid they've already encountered danger. The evil Heavenly Emperor frowned. In that case, send the 5 divine generals of the Golden Sect to lead 8,000 saint soldiers and find a suitable location to set up a station. Build the teleportation formation immediately. With that, the 5 majestic golden-armored divine generals stood up and agreed in unison. Then they turned around and summoned the holy weapons. The evil Heavenly Emperor began to make other arrangements, causing the entire Heavenly Court to stir. Shirtian. The void here did not look much different from the chaos. Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xinyuan, Jiang Yi, and Lao Dan rode the ancient tower. Zhao Xinyuan sighed. I wonder how that kid Han Yi is. I'm really not used to not having him around. Jiang Yi smiled. Why don't you give birth to a son to accompany us? Zhao Xinyuan glanced at him. Although I'm romantic, I don't want to be tied down. What about you? Do you want to rebuild the Golden Crow Divine Clan? If I'm like you. That girl from last time couldn't bear to leave you. Why did you reject her? I have no fixed residence. Why waste her time? I can't bring her along. Besides, she doesn't like me. It's just that I'm powerful. Then, you can have a romantic relationship with her. Why reject her directly? That's a pity. I'm not you. Lao Dan was already used to their bickering. Dao Sovereign looked ahead and said, what do you think will happen if we gather the great Tao Providence divine authority of the four worlds, chaos, consciousnessless, transcendent, and Shirtian? Lao Dan smiled. Don't think about it. No one can do it. Won't you be invincible if you really succeed? Even your master won't be your match. Dao Sovereign smiled. I want to try. I've already intercepted the power of the supreme rules of the transcendent and consciousnessless worlds. Only Shirtian is left. I wonder if there are more great Tao worlds. Lao Dan shook his head. I'm not sure. I realized that what we know is still too little, and we're too narrow-minded ever since the appearance of the consciousnessless great Tao world. If every great Tao world represents the appearance of a supreme existence, it's hard to imagine what the end of the path of cultivation is. Dao Sovereign sighed. Master is already so powerful, but he's still cultivating. I think the peak of cultivation is still very far from him. To us it's even more so. Lao Dan nodded. No matter what, I must obtain the power of Shirtian's supreme rules. As usual, old man, formulate a battle plan. Zhao Xingyuan and Jiang Yi will help me block the intruders. I'll teach it to you when I successfully intercept it. Dao Sovereign instructed. He could not refuse. From the beginning to the end, he had always been the leader of this team. Even Lao Dan had to listen to him. Zhao Xinyuan scratched his head and said helplessly, I hope that Shirtian's cultivators won't disappoint me. It's been a long time since I fought to my heart's content. I already feel the loneliness of invincibility. Jiang Yi crossed his arms and curled his lips. How shameless. Although he said that, his eyes revealed anticipation. It was already very difficult for them to encounter opponents in the chaos. Perhaps there was a mighty figure stronger than them, but he was not their match. Time passed quickly. The situation in the chaos changed. New people rose and ruled the world. There were also older mighty figures who died, and even overlords. It could be said to be extremely lively. To warlike people, this was an unprecedented golden age. As long as they were powerful enough, they could leave their names in history and shock the world. To Hanju, as usual, he entered seclusion for another 5 million years. Hanju opened his eyes, looking satisfied. He could cultivate at will after the ultimate origin world landed in the blank domain. His cultivation speed returned to before. Apart from the development of the ultimate origin world that could increase his cultivation, he could also refine his dermic powers and transform them into ultimate origin power. Apart from him, when other living beings reached the perfected Great Tao Supreme Realm, they could no longer rely on meditation to increase their cultivation. It was the same even for Tao creators. They could only rely on the Great Tao world. The stronger the foundation of the Great Tao world, the stronger its master could absorb the power of the Great Tao world. Of course, this was not a one-sided absorption, but complementary and successful. Hanju started to check his emails. Han Ling, Han Yi, Han Yao, and Han Bahen had been extremely active in the past 5 million years. Han Ling had established the Creation Emperor Court and had illustrious providence. Dao Sovereign and the other 3 entered Shirtian and caused another huge number of attacks. The 4 of them were even suppressed by a mysterious mighty figure and were severely injured. Hanju was very assured about the 4 of them. They wouldn't die. The higher one's cultivation level was, the more one cherished their life. The personal win. Disciples would definitely use the invocation technique. If they really couldn't, more than half of his friends entered Shirtian, making Hanju look forward to it. After reading the emails, Hanju stood up and walked out of the Taoist temple to reminisce with the good people. He only returned to the Taoist temple after hundreds of years. He was about to enter seclusion when he suddenly felt something and was slightly moved. Someone was borrowing his ultimate origin power. Han Huang, ultimate rage tyrant star. Ever since this opportunity landed on Han Huang, this was the first time he borrowed Hanju's power. After all, his strength was already top-notch in the chaos. No one could force him to this extent. Han Huang stayed in Shirtian during this period of time. There was such an expert in Shirtian? Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1038 Mystic Ancestor. Ancient Ultimate God. Chapter 1038 Mystic Ancestor. Ancient Ultimate God Shirtion. On a desolate continent covered in blood. The ground shattered and the sky tore apart. Space-time cracks were like countless huge centipedes that occupied it. Looking sinister and terrifying, a 10 million feet tall mighty figure stood on the ground. His body was surrounded by dragon-like nebulous primordial chi. His long hair fluttered wildly, and his figure was burly. His armor was stretched until cracks appeared. It was Han Huang. He had already used the primordial Fian Celestial's main body. His aura was like a rainbow, as he looked down at the terrifying figures in the distance. 10 great Tao Supremes, and more than 100 great Tao sages were scattered in all directions, trapping Han Huang here. This continent had already been set up with an array formation to isolate the void. Han Huang, today is the day you die. Eternal peak of the chaos? It's indeed impressive. Unfortunately, you will die here. Why are you talking nonsense with him? If the mystic ancestor makes a move, we have to hurry up. Ha ha ha. Killing Han Huang is equivalent to cutting off an arm of the chaos. I should be careful. This fellow's aura is becoming stronger again. Han Huang smiled sinisterly and crazily upon hearing the voices coming from all directions. He was extremely excited as he sensed the endless mysterious power in his body. So this is the power of the primordial Fiend Celestial. With this power, I'm invincible. Han Huang roared in his heart, his eyes filled with killing intent. He slowly raised his right hand, and a purple blade of light appeared in front of him. It was Hanju's ultimate origin soul oblivion. But the color was different. Han Huang smiled disdainfully. You thieves! I'll let you see the power of the primordial Fiend Celestial. Primordial Fiend Celestial. The mighty figures of Shirtion were in an uproar. The legend of the primordial Fiend Celestial had also spread in Shirtion. In addition to the fusion of the chaos in Shirtion, the primordial Fiend Celestial had become a hotly discussed name because of the chaos. Han Huang had the power of the primordial Fiend Celestial? Impossible. Han Huang laughed wantonly and suddenly waved his hand. Purple ultimate origin soul oblivion shot out and swept through the 100 great Tao sages in the sky. The great Tao sages attacked one after another, while the great Tao Supremes attacked Han Huang. Han Huang was fearless and extremely excited. Dharma idols condensed on his body as he leapt. He waved his palm in all directions and kept using the divine might great heaven palm. Boom, boom, boom. The world collapsed. The river of destiny hidden in the sky appeared and twisted wantonly, ready to be destroyed at any time. Han Huang grabbed a great Tao sage and crushed the great Tao runes around him, crushing his body into dust. Such was his power. Swish! A huge black sword suddenly stabbed into Han Huang's back. Endless lightning burst out and interwove around him, destroying him crazily. Even his soul was injured. Han Huang frowned and turned around. A ghost-head Taoist was casting a spell in the sky. Behind him was a netherworld-like scene of hell. Han Huang's killing intent erupted. His eyes narrowed as the ultimate origin soul oblivion condensed again and charged in front of Taoist's ghost head. Before he could react, he was obliterated by the ultimate origin soul. Even his body and soul were destroyed. The battle did not stop because of this. The other mighty figures kept attacking. A great Tao Supreme held a long sword and slashed a crack in the sky. A flowing river appeared in the crack. It was billions of kilometers wide, as if the sky was collapsing. Han Huang looked up and felt several great Tao auras. Great Tao River? Interesting. Han Huang thought of the mystical power that Tao Sovereign had used in the chaotic assembly. At this moment, a terrifying figure suddenly rose from the great Tao River. Only his upper body was revealed. He wore broken ancient bronze armor and had 4 arms. His face was like dead wood. Only his eyes were empty and lonely. There were countless divine weapons above his head, like an ancient god who had revived from the ancient battlefield. Primordial Fiend Celestial? I'll let you experience the power of the oldest chaotic Fiend Celestial first. The great Tao Supreme stood above the great Tao River and laughed wantonly. Remember his name, Ancient Ultimate God. With that said, the ancient ultimate god struggled out of the Great Tao River and swooped down at Han Huang. Han Huang was about to resist when a mysterious and powerful force suddenly bound him, preventing him from moving. Crap. Han Huang was moved. Boom, the ground shattered and dust flew. The barrier in the sky shattered, and the endless dark void devoured everything. On the other side, in the third Tao field, Hanju was watching the battle with relish. Shirtian's lineup was very strong. Most of the mighty figures guarding Shirtian had come only to besiege Han Huang. The strongest was that mystic ancestor, right? He imprisoned Han Huang in the void, causing him to be suppressed by the ancient ultimate god. The mystic ancestor was very strong, even stronger than Laozi. The ultimate god of punishment was probably not his match one-on-one. It had to be said that Shirtian's high-end combat strength was still very strong. However, it's not so easy to kill my son. Hanju smiled and began to increase the ultimate origin power he sent to Han Huang. Lil brat, I want to see how much you can withstand. Boom, in the abyss-like battlefield. The violent ultimate origin power dispersed the dust storm that covered the sky and pushed the majestic ancient ultimate god into the void. Nonsense. It's nothing much even if you join forces. Han Huang's wild laughter sounded. The endless dust storm was dispersed and vanished. The entire battlefield completely turned into a void. The previous vast continent had already disappeared, leaving not a single stone behind. Two waves of ultimate origin soul oblivion appeared around Han Huang and stepped on the ancient ultimate god with endless divine might. The great Tao Supreme who had summoned the Great Tao River said angrily, "Don't be arrogant." The Great Tao River quickly flowed and surrounded Han Huang. Ancient ultimate gods crawled out of the river like demons breaking free from their cages. Enough! A dignified voice descended. A white-robed Taoist sitting on a green lotus throne slowly landed. Resplendent divine light lit up behind him, illuminating the void. Han Huang frowned. It was this fellow again. If not for the mystic ancestor, these dogs wouldn't be his match at all. He could sense that the mystic ancestor had grasped the great Tao Providence divine authority. He could be said to still remember it. The master of the great Tao Providence divine authority in front of him was the strongest existence he had ever encountered. Mystic ancestor had a benevolent expression. His eyes were closed and his skin was as white as jade. He was like a statue. Leave your power behind and I can let you live. The mystic ancestor's voice was extremely dignified and irrefutable. Han Huang couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with him. He controlled the two streams of ultimate origin soul oblivion to attack. How fast was the ultimate origin soul oblivion? Before the afterimage disappeared, it had already arrived on both sides of the mystic ancestor, wanting to crush him. However, the ultimate origin soul passed through the mystic ancestor's body harmlessly. He was not injured at all. Han Huang frowned. Could it be that this was not his main body? Thank you for reading on my box novel. Calm, the mystic ancestor said. No power in this world can hurt me, even if it's the supreme rules. Cracks suddenly appeared on his body before he could finish speaking, causing him to open his eyes. Impossible. What power is this? Mystic ancestor was moved and immediately suppressed the remaining ultimate origin power coursing through his body. Chapter 1039 Curse Origin Star. Chapter 1039 Curse Origin Star. Han Huang didn't care that the mystic ancestor was shocked. He compressed his supreme power and ultimate origin power, causing his body to quickly shrink and recover his mortal body. He raised his hands, and two ultimate origin soul oblivion condensed in his palms again. He attacked the mystic ancestor at an extremely fast speed. You're courting death. A great Tao Supreme saw that something was wrong with the mystic ancestor, and immediately stopped him. Han Huang waved the ultimate origin soul oblivion and slashed. The great Tao Supreme took out an ancient lamp. The ancient lamp emitted a strong light, but it was directly shattered by the ultimate origin soul oblivion. How can this be? The great Tao Supreme's expression changed drastically. Before he could dodge, Han Huang's other ultimate origin soul oblivion slashed over, destroying his body and soul. Han Huang followed in front of the mystic ancestor. Two ultimate origin soul oblivion slashed at him. Mystic Ancestor immediately dodged, causing Han Huang to miss. At this moment, ancient ultimate gods flew out from the Great Tao River and drowned Han Huang like an army of locusts. Divine light burst out and flickered. Ancient ultimate gods were forcefully killed by Han Huang. The Great Tao Supreme, who controlled the Great Tao River, gritted his teeth and kept casting spells to summon more ancient ultimate gods from the Great Tao River. As the number of ancient ultimate gods increased, this Great Tao Supreme's body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if his blood qi had been sucked dry. Soon, his skin turned to dust like paper, leaving only a skeleton. He was no longer able to summon the ancient ultimate god, and the ancient ultimate gods previously summoned had already been killed by Han Huang. The ancient ultimate god was indeed very strong. That pressure was enough to crush ordinary Great Tao Supremes. But he was like a mortal and could not withstand a single blow in front of the ultimate origin power. Han Huang arrived in front of the mystic ancestor again and smiled sinisterly. "I thought you were strong. Why are you running away like a rat?" Mystic ancestor was still infuriated no matter how good-tempered he was. He said coldly, "Junior, you're too arrogant." Boom! 2 white beams of light suddenly shot out from the mystic ancestor's eyes and drowned Han Huang. In the light, Han Huang crossed the 2 ultimate origin souls in front of him and easily blocked this light, causing a hollow area to appear in the middle of the light. Too powerful, Han Huang thought with fascination. He was referring to the power in his hand, and not the mystic ancestor's power. He felt that he was omnipotent as he held the ultimate origin soul Oblivion. No matter how powerful an existence was, it was nothing in front of him. He laughed wantonly in excitement and approached the mystic ancestor again. Great Tao sages flew over from all directions wanting to stop him. In the end, they were swept away by the ultimate origin soul Oblivion. They were all reduced to ashes when they touched it. Hanju was speechless. "My ultimate origin soul Oblivion is being used by this brat like this. It's too uncouth." But it made sense on second thought. His ultimate origin soul Oblivion could automatically kill enemies. But to Han Huang, it was an external force and could not be used freely. From the battle situation, Han Huang was definitely going to win, unless the immeasurable destruction Venerable personally took action. This battle shouldn't alarm the immeasurable destruction Venerable. Although Han Huang could win, those Great Tao sages all had life-saving methods. It was impossible for them to fight with their main bodies. Even if they did, soul fragments would definitely be reborn. It was very difficult to truly kill a Great Tao sage. Most of the time, he had to use a karma mystical power to destroy it. Although the Book of Misfortune was not affected by karma, it was essentially a karma attack. However, its karma was high-level and surpassed ordinary karma. Hanju naturally wouldn't use the Book of Misfortune to curse Han Huang's enemies to death. In this life, everyone had their own methods. If they lost, they had to be able to afford it. Han Huang had countless mortal enemies along the way. How could Hanju curse them all to death? Even his son was like this, let alone his other children and personal disciples. Hanju was in a good mood and thought of the creation heavens chosen he had accumulated. Should he use it? It just so happened that he didn't have anyone by his side. Hanju couldn't help but smile. Activating the creation heavens chosen. A random great creation will appear among your descendants. Your descendant Shani has awakened an innate great creation curse origin star. Curse origin star. Ultimate origin great creation. Because you cursed many times, it left a mark in the depths of your soul, and subsequently affected the ultimate origin world, producing the Tao of curses, and forming the creation star phase. This creation can give curse talent that does not involve karma. Hanju was stunned. This was the humanoid Book of Misfortune? Goodness. You can do that? Hanju was interested in Shani. He had to control this kid well to prevent him from being treated as the Dark Forbidden Lord. He began to deduce Shani. No wonder this fellow's surname was not Han. He wasn't born into the Han family, but into a great world of Shirtian. The Heavenly Tao had also been investigating Shirtian for millions of years. A portion of the Han family disciples had been sent out. When Shirtian was adventuring, some died and some disappeared. Shani was the child left behind by the missing. Shani's ancestor was surnamed Han. He was saved by a woman from Shurtion when he was severely injured and had children with her. However, Shani's parents died at the hands of the chaotic cultivators. The chaos and the heavenly Tao plundered each other. The world where Shani was located was slaughtered by the chaotic cultivator. Only a few people survived, including Shani. Before obtaining the curse origin star, Shani was hiding in a ruin to survive. He was only 16 years old now. He had lived alone for 10 years. Hanju sighed. Another unfortunate descendant. He did not move immediately. Instead, he waited for the transformation to end. Shani awakened the curse origin star. At this moment, he was wrapped by the curse power like a black egg. Several months later, Shani finally awakened. During this period of time, his body instinctively absorbed the spirit chi of heaven and earth and became stronger. In the ruins, Shani's clothes were tattered. His hair was messy and his face was dirty and covered in sweat. He looked at his hands in surprise. This power. That's right. It really exists. Could this be the dermic powers of a cultivator? Shani was overjoyed. He would never forget the calamity back then. He had always wanted revenge, but it was difficult for him to even survive because he didn't have a cultivation technique. Sure, I'm finally qualified to take revenge. Shani clenched his fists and muttered to himself. At this moment, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. A man appeared in front of him. He was stunned. He had never seen such a handsome man. It was indescribable. After being stunned for a moment, he suddenly retreated and looked around in horror. It was a Taoist temple with its door closed. To be able to suddenly bring him here, the other party must be a cultivator. Shani was extremely hostile to cultivators, but because he was too weak, this hostility turned into nervousness and fear. Hanju smiled warmly. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Shani swallowed and asked carefully, What are you doing? Hanju said, Cultivate beside me in the future. Shani widened his eyes. Immortal? Could it be because of the power he had awakened earlier? That must be it. There was no free lunch in the world. Shani was silent. He began to think about how to escape. Hanju smiled. With your current strength, you will need about 7 octodecillion years to return to where you came from. Moreover, this prerequisite applies only after you learn how to fly. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1040 Shadow of Hatred. Chapter 1040 Shadow of Hatred 7 octodecillion years? Shani was stunned. He couldn't imagine what this number meant. He asked carefully, Who are you? Why did you capture me? Hanju smiled. Me? I'm your ancestor. I took you in because I saw that you were pitiful. Ancestor. Shani hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed. Hanju said, Your ancestor is from the Han family of the heavenly Tao. The chaos and Shurtion have fused 10 million years ago. He told Shani about his ancestry. Hatred flashed across Shani's eyes when he heard about the chaos, but the long timeline shocked him. When he learned about the Han family's past, his emotions were even more complicated. It turned out that his ancestor and his hated enemy actually came from the same place. In a sense, it was a misunderstanding. His heart collapsed. Why was this happening? He felt that fate was teasing him. Hanju said, This is the karma of the world. Anyone will face calamity in their life. Cultivate beside me in peace in the future, and let go of your hatred. Shani looked up and gritted his teeth. Impossible. I must take revenge. I don't care about my ancestry. I only know that that person killed my parents. I must kill him one day. Hanju smiled and continued, Cultivate beside me. Every time I enter seclusion, it will take 5 million years. After 5 million years, that person will probably be long dead. Even if you rush back now and look for him, you won't be able to catch up to his lifespan limit. Shani was stunned. Although he felt that it was ridiculous, what the ancestor said was the truth. At such a distance and at such a time, revenge became pale and meaningless. But he was indignant. Hanju waved his sleeve and cast a spell to cleanse Shani's body. Then he changed into a clean Taoist robe. As expected of his descendants, They were all very handsome. Hanju created a map beside him and gestured for Shani to sit down. He began to teach this kid the cultivation technique. When Shani's cultivation level increased to a certain realm, he could ignore language communication. Then, he would introduce him to the disciples of the third Tao field. As Hanju cultivated in seclusion, he multitasked and guided Shani from time to time. Year after year passed. Shani originally thought that Hanju was scaring him, but slowly, he felt that it was true. He felt lonely after cultivating for decades. He wanted to go out, but he discovered that he couldn't open the door of the Taoist temple no matter what he did, much less use spells to break out. He had no choice but to continue cultivating. He tried again thousands of years later, using his mystical power, but he crashed into the wall. Just like that, Shani began to cultivate to escape. He gradually forgot his hatred. Time could erase everything. When there was no hope and things were not going well, they could only remember hatred. However, if they lived a positive life and had a bright future, the weight of hatred would decrease greatly. Of course, they still had to take revenge if they succeeded in the future. Shani's temperament was also constantly transforming. He was not as cold as before. Time passed quickly. Nearly 5 million years passed in the blink of an eye. Hanju woke up and notifications appeared in front of him. Detected that you are 80 million years old, and your life has taken another step forward. You have the following choices. 1. Exit seclusion immediately, and destroy the other Great Tao worlds. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, a creation spirit stone, and a chance to upgrade the system function. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner, and maintain your original intention. You can obtain a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. You have obtained a creation heaven's chosen attempt. He definitely couldn't choose the first option. That would attract too much hatred. Hanju silently chose the second option. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner, and obtained a Great Tao fragment, a primordial fragment, and a creation spirit stone. The creation heavens chosen was activated when he was 10 million years old. He obtained a chance every 10 million years. Currently, the descendants who obtained the creation heavens chosen were Han Huang, Han Ling, Han Yao, Han Yi, Han Bahen and Shani. He had 8 attempts at 80 million years old. There were still 2 slots left. Hanju looked at Shani beside him. After so many years, Shani had already attained the Tao and was about to attain freedom. His cultivation speed was considered slow compared to his other descendants. At this age, Hanju was not only at the freedom realm. Hanju decided to keep the creation heavens chosen for now and draw 10 consecutive times in the future. When his descendants thought that they were already independent and didn't need Hanju, he would use the creation heavens chosen and use a new batch of creation descendants to stimulate them. Hanju stood up, causing Shani to wake up. He felt as if a lifetime had passed as he saw Hanju stand up. 1 million years ago, he was impatient and uneasy. Later, he got used to it and became immersed in cultivation, unable to extricate himself. It was as if he had a long dream. Hanju brought him out of the Taoist temple to see the others. Shani was even more stunned when he saw the situation of the Tao field. It was more beautiful than he had imagined. It was like paradise, as beautiful as a painting. Wow, another descendant. He's quite shy, Xing Hongxian said in surprise. Then, she pinched Shani's face, scaring him so much that he hurriedly retreated. Qing Wan'er and Xian Qingjun also sized him up with interest. Hanju smiled. These are all your grandmothers. Don't be afraid. You have to treat them like mothers in the future, understand? I'll deal with you if you're rude. Shani's nervousness vanished. Although he had interacted with Hanju for 5 million years, he had never understood his personality. It was filled with distance. Now, Hanju's threat made him feel that he was human. After that, Hanju brought Shani to the second Tao field to see the other personal disciples. Hanju left a clone in the second Tao field. If any disciple wanted to go out, they could report to the clone at any time. Currently, half of the disciples in the second Tao field were still here. The black hell chicken shouted when it saw Shani. Master has another son. The others gathered. Hanju said angrily. It's not a son, but a descendant. He briefly introduced Shani. The disciples felt pity for him after learning about his background. Who killed your parents? Pass me his voice and appearance. I'll get the hidden sect disciples to put him on the wanted list, Morongchi asked. Shani couldn't help but look at Hanju. Hanju said, that person has already died. He slaughtered another world of Shirtion 3 million years ago. He was attacked by a mighty figure and died. He didn't even have a chance to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Everyone was silent. This was the first time Shani had heard this news. He frowned. Several days later, Hanju brought Shani to his territory. It could be considered telling the personal disciples that if they encountered Shani in the future, they had to take care of him. The personal disciples were no longer the same as before. They naturally understood the meaning of Hanju's actions. Back in the Taoist temple, Shani remained silent. Hanju said, the power awakened in your body before I moved you into the Taoist temple was given by me. You're not the only one. Previously, I also chose other 6 descendants. Some of them were even worse off than you. But they have already walked out of the shadow of hatred and started living for themselves. Thank you for reading on my box novel. Com. Chapter 1041 Legend of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Chapter 1041 Legend of the Dark Forbidden Lord. Is there really someone worse than me? Shani was stunned and asked in disbelief. He fell silent after Hanju recounted Han Bashan's experience. Cultivate well and find your true goal. Don't disappoint me, Hanju said meaningfully. Shani couldn't help but look up at him. For some reason, Shani felt that his smile was so holy and noble. Compared to this progenitor, he was really too petty. He was so petty that he wasn't worthy of cultivating by his side. Shani had already understood the Han family. They had countless descendants and had been passed down for tens of millions of years. There were definitely descendants more outstanding than him in the myriad worlds and descendants who were even more miserable than him. Even so, the progenitor had chosen him, Shani. At this moment, indescribable emotions surged in his heart. His unwillingness and hatred dissipated. He said seriously, progenitor, I will work hard and not let you down. Hanju smiled. Do you sense your own strength? Shani said. Yes, but it's very vague. This power seems to be the Tao of Karma you talked about. I can use it to spy on the chaos and yin-yang, but I can't make it work for me. What I'm talking about is transforming it into my combat power. Hanju said, there's an extremely mysterious mighty figure in the chaos. He might also be the most mysterious existence in the entire chaos and Shirtion. His name is the Dark Forbidden Lord. No one has seen his true body, but many mighty figures were cursed to death by him. He introduced the Dark Forbidden Lord from the perspective of others. Shani was surprised. Using curses to attain the Tao and shock the world? There was such an existence. I've also been cursed by the Dark Forbidden Lord, so I passed the power of karma to you. I want you to become an existence like him. In the future, when the Dark Forbidden Lord curses me, help me curse him. Hanju smiled, causing Shani's blood to boil. The progenitor had given him a goal to cultivate, so he was naturally excited. After understanding why the progenitor had taken him in, not only was he not disappointed, but he was even more grateful to him. The progenitor actually chose him to fight such a powerful existence. How highly regarded was this? Shani clenched his fists and said, I'll definitely use the power of karma to protect the progenitor and everyone. The so-called everyone included the descendants of the Han family and the hidden sect disciples. These days, Hanju brought him to see the others, and they were very passionate and took care of him, making him feel the kinship he had not felt for a long time. He cherished this very much. Hanju rubbed his head, making him feel embarrassed. Although Shani was almost 5 million years old, his mind was still stuck at the age of youth. He had been in seclusion all these years and had not gained any experience. You're my most favored descendant. I believe you. Hanju smiled gently. Shani was so excited that his entire body seemed to be burning. Then, Hanju let him continue cultivating. After entering his cultivation state, Shani quickly calmed down. Hanju smiled and started to check his emails. Your son Han Huang was attacked by cultivators from Shirtian, X80922321. Your good friend Evil Heavenly Emperor was cursed by a mysterious curse. Your good friend Huang Zuantian was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure from Shirtian and was severely injured. Your disciple Ji Xianxian has entered Shirtian's river of destiny. Your good friend, the ultimate god of punishment, was attacked by a mysterious mighty figure. Your daughter Han Ling has obtained the faith of more than 100 million living beings. Her cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Li Daokong has fused with the Sword Dao River and established the Great Dao World. His cultivation has increased greatly. Your good friend Holy Mother of Order has entered the Purity Great Dao World. It was still so lively. Every email contained abundant information. Hanju could think of a soul-stirring plot. How interesting. He suddenly envied these guys. It was precisely because their cultivation speed was inferior to his that they could experience more life than him. Hanju also wanted to act recklessly, but he had no backing. His personal disciples and descendants at least had his support. As for him, along the way, he could only rely on the system to become stronger. He would also die if he encountered a powerful enemy that far exceeded his current realm. Therefore, he was very glad that he had chosen the right path. Not going out would reduce the chances of coming into contact with powerful enemies. He had to keep a low profile and not attract too much attention before he grew up. Hanju focused on the ultimate origin world after reading the emails. The ultimate origin world was far from the chaos in Shirtian. Only great Dao Supremes could step into the blank domain. However, even great Dao Supremes didn't dare to enter the blank domain. The Dao creators did not attack the ultimate origin world, so it was calm. However, this was only around the ultimate origin world. An unprecedented conflict had appeared in the ultimate origin world. As more and more living beings appeared, the Nether race and the chaotic fiend celestials preached. More and more cultivators appeared. Ambition would naturally grow as one became stronger. Some were born evil, some were born bloodthirsty, and some began to plunder because of the upper limit of their potential. There were all sorts of situations and conflicts naturally appeared. Hanju had no other thoughts about this. He was happy to see this. He could hand it over to the Nether race and the ultimate origin soul race. Only after chaos could order be established. Battles would ensue sooner or later, wherever living beings were. Powerful existences needed to be weak. He wouldn't care as long as the ultimate origin world didn't suffer any calamity. What he wanted to do was guide all living beings in the ultimate origin world. Hanju could already understand why gods didn't care about mortals' suffering. He had become such a god despised by mortals. In an extremely bright hall, 2 rows of stone pillars that were so tall that their tops couldn't be seen formed a great Dao that connected the heavens. At the end of the great Dao, a figure sat on a 1,000-foot-tall jade throne. It was Han Ling. Han Ling wore a golden-sleeved dress and had a dignified posture. Her long hair scattered on the throne, and she wore the Dragon Phoenix Emperor crown. She was like an ancient god who had created everything. She meditated quietly, looking dignified and holy. At this moment, 3 figures suddenly appeared in the vast hall below. Han Yao, Han Yi, Han Bahen. The 3 of them had terrifying auras and were domineering, like invincible war gods. Facing Han Ling, they knelt down and bowed. Han Yao said, "Your Majesty, the supreme rules have been stripped from Shirtian. The various factions have gone to fight for the supreme rules and want to obtain the great Dao Providence divine authority. I want to represent the Creation Emperor Court in this fight." Han Yi snorted. "This battle concerns the Creation Emperor Court's reputation. We still have to send the strongest Emperor General, which is me." Han Bahen chuckled. "Although you are strong, you are not as domineering as me. If you want to shock the world, you still have to rely on my strength." The 3 of them competed openly. No one wanted to lose to each other. Han Ling said, "All of you go together. You must obtain the supreme rules. You can't give up even if you face my second brother." Han Yi smiled. "Ancestor Han Huang? I've long wanted to spar with him." Han Yao and Han Bahen also looked expectant. They had never seen Han Huang's true strength, but he was indeed famous. They could be said to be thunderous, and naturally wanted to challenge him. Thank you for reading on my box novel. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.